Scrapper, Scavenger, Cheater, Roamer, Adventurer, Prospector, Pirate, Explorer, Rogue. The Augustine sector is a harsh home. Its vast expanse for the most part uninhabited and barely explored. The call of the frontier attracts new colonists from everywhere, eager to forge a new home out of dust and rocks. Even its major population centers, planets housing tens of billions, still maintain a Spartan feel that older worlds lost a long time ago. The neighbouring superpowers, the Horsehead Federation, and the Heido Empire, are all too eager to exercise their influence on the young sector, which, sitting between the two behemoths, is a theatre of innumerable secret operations and power plays. As the relationship between the Federation and the Empire deteriorates, many fear war is inevitable in the near future, with Augustine its main battlefield. The situation is further complicated by the rise of the Union of Free Augustine Systems, the power that emerged from a massive rebellion that swept through the sector like wildfire, almost a century ago. The insurgents only encouraged further militarization of the borders, turning most of the Augustinian region into a massive front line. Amidst all of this, you find little truce from your own demons. Forced to abandon your previous life, or maybe finally escaping it, you don the mantle of Scrapper, hoping to find fame and fortune in the vast expanse of space, and maybe even survive the upcoming war. Scrappers are enigmatic figures, heroes and villains, opportunists and criminals. They are men and women that are willing to push further, to dig deeper, to do what others refuse to do, for the right price. Each section has its own rules, written in the same colour. Important information, such as limitations or the number of choices available, is highlighted in this colour instead. Upbringing. Choose one main homeworld or birthplace. You can combine more options together. Traits are optional, but you can take at most one upbringing trait. Spacer. You were born during an interplanetary voyage and spent most of your life in the corridors of spaceships and space stations. Voidborn. You are extremely agile and precise in low-gravity conditions, but fairly slow and clumsy on solid land. Belter. You were born on one of the many small communities living on asteroid belts, dwarf planets, and small moons. Always a Belter. Other Belters will not hesitate to shelter and feed you, but others will see you as a second-class citizen. Frontier Colony. You were born on a small and poor colony on the frontier, in the middle of the centuries-long process of terraformation. Frontier Spirit. You are used to and even enjoy a life of frugality, but you have little knowledge of the outside world. Military Outpost. You were born on a military base on an isolated planet. You spend most of your childhood among soldiers and sailors. This is my rifle. You know the ins and outs of most weapons and military equipment, but you are unaccustomed to civilian life. Penal Colony. You were born on a penal colony where criminals are given a second chance in exchange for grueling labour in harsh land. Like father, you know criminal language and customs, but polite society will always use your upbringing against you. Lost Colony. A recently rediscovered colony from the first colonization wave, who lost almost all its technology due to the long isolation. Old-timer. You intuitively know how to use ancient human artifacts, but you are unfamiliar with modern technology. Collapsed Colony. You were born on a collapsed or collapsing colony, left to die by itself, where food and shelter were as precious as gold and fuel. Blood from Stone. Your survival instincts can carry you through almost anything, but you struggle to integrate in human society. Feral World. You were born on a small colony on a world teeming with xenoflora and fauna, full of wonders and hidden perils. Whisperer. You know how to handle almost any animal, even alien ones. The same cannot be said about humans. Agri-World. You were born on an agri-world in which most of the land and population is dedicated to the production of food. Earther. Your upbringing gifted you a healthy and powerful physique, but you developed a mild phobia of space travel. Industrial World. You were born on a world dominated by massive industrial structures and the incessant passage of trade ships. Iron Thumb. You have an instinctive understanding of engineering, but your body is weakened by poisonous pollution. Urban World. You were born on a world full of towering residential complexes, government offices, corporate branches, and headquarters. Hive Rat. You are an expert at navigating corporate and state bureaucracy, but you are easy to physically intimidate. Paradise World. You were born on one of a few paradise worlds, planets of incredible beauty, shaped to be home for the elite of the elite. High Class. You possess an enviable knowledge of astropolitics and intrigue, but your immune system is rather weak. Polity of Origin. Choose one entry who held authority over your homeworld or birthplace. You can combine more options together. Traits are optional, but you can take at most one polity trait. Note that these are the nations and institutions with a presence in the Augustine sector, not an exhaustive list of the existing nations in the galaxy. Horsehead Federation. The Horsehead Federation is the oldest human nation in the known galaxy, though many dispute such claims as it falls prey to civil wars and secessions with excessive regularity. The current incarnation of this ancient institution seems to have found some relative stability with the abolition of the old sector fleets in favour of much smaller ones, named border or core fleets, depending on their assignment. Despite the fractured and relatively weak central government, the Federation remains one of the main superpowers of the Northern Quadrant, in no small part due to its massive territorial extension and relatively open society, which allows even alien firms to freely operate in their space and engage in commerce. Heirs of Earth. Citizens of the Federation are open, amiable, and frequently very generous, but they can also often be self-centered and self-satisfied, even arrogant. Hado Empire. The Hado Empire is a relatively young nation, founded by Changhado, a pirate warlord that conquered and unified the Numidia, Galba, and Tycho sectors. Obsessed with the possibility of his legacy falling into unworthy hands, Chain created several male and female clones of himself, and chose his heir among them. Such tradition survived. The imperial family is still today composed of nearly identical clones of the original emperor. The Hado Empire controls about a third of the systems the Federation holds, but its government is strong and commands a powerful and experienced military. Many corporations enjoy the regulatory freedom of the Empire, and the citizens its great prosperity, provided they are not slaves, xenos, or happen to look like the imperial family. Imperial Creed. Citizens of the Empire are known to be well disciplined and with great self-control, but also narrow-minded and bound to tradition. Union of Free Augustine Systems. The Union is a loose confederation of several systems and trade unions of the Augustine sector. Born out of a massive wave of protests and rebellions against corporate governments and the complacency of the Federation's regional government, the Union aspires to become a beacon of freedom and hope for workers, slaves, and aliens alike by adopting a decentralized system of governance, redistributing corporate property, and granting citizenship to all resident Xenos. While scoring several victories against punitive corporate expeditions and pirate hordes, the Union is struggling to deal with the pressure against its borders and the overwhelming amount of social transformations taking place within it. Its long-term survival is uncertain. Fire and Hammers. Citizens of the Union are brave and without fear, with a strong sense of justice, but they are often hot-headed and intolerant of authority. Corporate Dominion. Creating new colonies is an expensive and risky affair. The state provides resources and support only for those of high strategic or economic value. Many, however, wish to forge their own futures in the galaxy. These individuals find themselves in need of funding that only corporations are willing to grant, in exchange for contracts of commercial exclusivity or rights over the colony's resources. Most corporations are not interested in the politics and life of their colonies, leaving the settlers relatively free rein over their internal organisation and politics. They, however, are essential to the survival of the colony, not only for their financial support, but as a commercial partner. Therefore, they can often obtain whatever they may desire from their independent colonial assets. Sweat and Gold. Citizens from corporate colonies are very pragmatic, hard-working and down-to-earth, but also very opportunistic, and with a questionable sense of loyalty. Never easy Augustine colonies. The Augustine sector is overwhelmingly populated by humans, but there are several systems that are controlled by xeno-empires. The greatest presence is of the Never Easy, small insect-like creatures that often fought against human expansionist ambitions in the past. Their pheromone-based communication, rather unique between spacefaring races, brought much unwanted interest upon their isolationist nation. Yet their culture remains for the most part a mystery, as they are unlikely to accept an alien as peer, and will refuse interaction if pressed. Their ability to hold a grudge is legendary. News of misdeeds against their species travels between their colonies like wildfire, soon uniting their entire nation in hate against the offending party. Bound and bonded. Humans that live for a long time under the Never Easy have a strong sense of loyalty and self-sacrifice, but are quite distrustful and severe. Free, independent. The logistics involved with the management of a space empire do not allow, even in the best of scenarios, for a complete and full hegemony over one's own controlled territory. No state has infinite resources, and many minor systems, especially on the frontier, will be ignored by the authorities. These systems turn into havens for criminals, political dissidents, and pirates. Sometimes they become beacons of hope for populations of species exiled from their lands, or worse, hunted down by their enemies. Most of these small colonies do not grow beyond a few thousand residents, but in rare cases they become prosperous cities, or infamous hives of scum and villainy. Their success, however, is their downfall, as it attracts the attention of the institutions they escaped for so long. Penultimate frontier. Inhabitants of independent systems are known to be eccentric, quirky, and often paranoid, but that is just what the government wants you to think. The Warlord of Tranai. In the regions of the fringes of human space and in the older, poorer parts of human territory, where civilization has not yet recovered from the collapse of the first colonization wave, many planets are left to fend for themselves, their value too low for governments or corporations to bother with. In these forgotten chunks of space, warlords thrive. Dane Bilson, better known as the Warlord of Tranai, managed to carve a small kingdom for himself, a few dozen systems strong at the edge of the Augustine sector. While his rule is harsh and absolute, he does bring some semblance of stability to a region that has had little of since the collapse of the first wave. Blood and Booze. People from the Tranai Kingdom are hardy, jovial, and easygoing, but they are often rude, inappropriate, and a bit too fond of tavern brawls. Pyrian Augustine Front. The Pyrians have a small but solid presence in the Augustine sector. Contrary to the Never Easy, they rarely clashed with the humans, due to the different environmental conditions they need to live. Still, there are a few cases where the two species can coexist on the same world, with a few compromises. Their system is based on a thick network of assistance and exchange between clans, guilds, and the state bureaucracy. Despite the monolithic and authoritative nature of said institutions, however, internally there is a strong culture of direct democratic control. The same cannot be said of their penal system, that is based on forcing criminals to serve as servants of those that they have wronged for the length of their sentence. Walk softly. Humans that lived under the Pyrian are elegant, kind, and good-mannered, but hold the value of the word of a man above everything. A favour must be returned. None. Anarchy. In the vastness of space, it is very much possible to live your life outside of complex social structures. In sectors like Augustine, which only recently has drawn attention to itself, it is even more true. Examples of such are wandering vagabonds living on their personal ships, barely colonized planets where the population is too low for even local governments to form, old stations left behind because they were no longer useful or relevant. Furthermore, there are also colonies that have collapsed or are close to collapse, abandoned by their corporate investors for their unprofitability, where the local government lost all of its authority, or nearly so. Hard knocks. People who live this way are often very tenacious, determined and strong-willed, but equally often they are austere, misanthropic, and egotistic. History. Choose one life history. Ex-slave. You spent most, if not all, of your life as property, following the orders of whoever held your contract. The life of slaves in the Augustine sector is not necessarily one of abuse and pain, but such a fate is common. Most slaves work in mines and farms, some as house servants, others still as cheap soldiers. Of all major players in the Augustine sector, The Hado Empire is the only one who legally accepts slavery. However, it has implemented some laws to limit abuse. Criminal. You were a low-level criminal, chased by the law and with few friends outside your band or organization. As in most frontier sectors, piracy is common outside the closely guarded main trade routes. Many famous warlords started as humble privateers, scraping a living by raiding trade vessels. Crime syndicates are also as common. Their presence can be felt throughout the sector, with the complicit or complacent consent of the official authorities. Nameless immigrant. You are an immigrant or a refugee that came to Augustine to seek a better life, or to escape the past. There can be pretty important cultural differences between different sectors, even if they exist under the same policy. For that reason, immigrants from faraway planets often adopt a new identity to better integrate in society. Other times, instead, their motives are less noble, like trying to escape their debts, or their crimes, or their duties. Colonist. You worked, as is a good part of the population of the Augustine sector, to expand the horizon of human space. Most are employed in the various tasks that are required for a colony to survive and develop. Extraction, transportation, and refinement of natural resources, farming, construction, manufacturing. While most colonists put down roots on the world they contributed giving shape to, some become professional colony builders, appreciated throughout the sector. Corporate employee. You were a low-level employee of one of the many corporations operating in the Augustine sector. The life of a corporate employee ranges from the hardship and deprivation found in the many colossal industrial plants of the region, to the meaningless void of the management of corporate bureaucracy. Yet not all positions are soul-crushing, alienating jobs. Many employees live fulfillingly, if unremarkable lives, in relatively high comfort. Independent worker. You worked as an independent contractor, or as a specialized artisan. Maybe you were part of a very small company with just a handful of employees. The life of an independent worker is not easy. Corporations and governments can easily crush your activity with an afterthought, or even by accident. It is a life of hardship and constraints, but it is also a life of relative freedom, where you can have some creative self-expression, something that corporate drones are often not allowed to have. Security. You worked in security, a dangerous yet profitable life, in a sector in rapid expansion and transformation. With the military build-up in the region, recruitment efforts stepped up on all sides, including in private security, with many mercenary companies multiplying their numbers and assets. However, while trained personnel is highly sought after, their average life expectancy is low and falling, due to the increasing amount of clandestine activity. Intellectual. You worked in an academy, a university or a research center, as a teacher, assistant, author or scientist. Being a man of science or culture in a frontier sector is a blessing and a curse. Plenty of discoveries to be made, stories to be told, and technology to be invented, yet so little infrastructure or funding to do so. And the many interests converging in on Augustine do little to alleviate the issue. If anything, they further narrow down what little you're allowed to study. Government official. You worked in the government, at the local level, or maybe in a more important institution on a core world. The life of government officials is complex. Their loyalties are divided between their party agenda, the requests of their benefactors, the public good, and the necessities of the bureaucratic regime you are called to manage. As such, their life is one of compromise, where luxury and wealth are as plentiful as the strings attached to them. High manager. You are an important director or executive with responsibilities and power over a subsidiary, institution or colony. The life of high managers is one of comfort and luxury, but also one of stress and constant competition, as the ever-shifting landscape of the sector allows for little peace in its upper echelons. While exceptions exist, most high managers come from important families, born into a dense and precious network of exclusive circles and secret alliances. Old nobility. You are part of one of the ancient noble families that once ruled humanity, with a long and rich history. While in modern times rare and for the most part a legacy of the past, nobility still carries some power and responsibility in many social circles, and even over the populace. Most noble families no longer possess important positions, but are often deeply involved in corporate affairs and political intrigue. Deep sleep rescue. Cheap colony ships are slow behemoths who need decades to reach their destination. Thus, they are equipped with cryopods to house the colonists, It is not unheard of that their shoddy construction is cause for breakdown, stranding thousands of people in space. This is what happened to your craft. Fortunately for you, a passing vessel found your lost ship and rescued as many as they could from their frozen tombs. You were among the lucky few to come out alive. A new life. Determine why you abandoned your old life and became a scrapper. Consider the following as guidelines, to be ignored, combined, and expanded upon, as you see fit. Need. You toiled and laboured, yet it was never enough. Debt, taxes, fees, bribes, unrefusable requests, all plotting to keep you from success, or maybe even simple survival. You looked in envy at the famous scrappers parading their riches and trophies around, accumulated in their legendary adventures. Maybe that was the path to escape this stagnating existence. Betrayal. Your old life was violently stripped from you, from within. A friend, a relative, an accomplice, a colleague, a partner, a lover. Someone who used your trust against you. Now abandoned, maybe left for dead and with few allies remaining, the life of a scrapper appears the only path that will allow you to rebuild your strength, and perhaps have your revenge someday. Hope. You spent your life obeying your family, your owner, your superior, following the path that was laid down in front of you without question. It was not enough. You crave for more, for a freedom that you rarely tasted. The life of a scrapper is hardly a comfortable one, filled with peril and hardship, but what other path could match its liberty? Sponsor. Choose one agency who you join to get started as a scrapper. Taking the sponsor trait is optional. The role of a sponsor is usually limited to the management of contracts and the administration of payments and rewards. Most sponsors require their scrappers to follow a certain code of conduct or guidelines, but beyond that, their influence is fairly limited. Independent. While not a majority, a good number of scrappers started out and remained independent throughout their careers. Working without a sponsor is difficult, as there is no support if things go awry, and contracts need to be sought personally, but the scrapper that decides to live such a life can enjoy the fruits of their toil in full. Code of Honor. There exists an informal code of honor between independent scrappers which forbids lethal sabotage and requires that a minimum of assistance is to be provided to fellow independents. Colonial Affairs. Most states have a dedicated institution for the handling of scrappers, which allow individuals involved in such fields to operate with a modicum of legal protection. For those willing to deal with the watchful eye of the government and its red tape, the Office of Colonial Affairs offers steady and relatively well-paid work. Big Brother. While officially prohibited, scrappers employed by the state are allowed limited access to the archives and surveillance systems of local law enforcement and government institutions. Tanaka General Contracts. The Tanaka Corporation is one of the few private companies legally allowed to deal with scrappers. Despite their less than stellar reputation, many find employment as one of their agents a comfortable life, at least as long as the company's expectations and profit margins are met. Protecting their assets. Scrappers employed by the Tanaka Corporation can have their identity erased, changed, or entirely remade thanks to their skeleton surgery, genetic engineering, and forgery of documents. Spacefaring Workers for Augustine. The SWA is one of the many founding trade unions of the Union of Free Systems. It has a long history in the sector, not entirely pristine, but overall positive. It manages a small fleet of scrappers to handle tasks that require subtlety, in order not to raise the ire of the corporate giants they have to fight against daily. Friendly Skies. While under the employment of the SWA, scrappers are almost guaranteed to find a safe port and a good mechanic for a reasonable fee for their ship, regardless of their location in Augustine. Fangley Group. The Fangley Group is the legal smokescreen the infamous Fangley family hides behind. Their criminal empire is well known throughout the sector. Their willingness to provide sustenance where official institutions refuse to act gained them more than fleeting loyalty between the downtrodden. Bigger Fish. The Fangley name carries weight in the criminal underworld. Most thieves, cheats, brigands, and pirates will stay clear of scrappers employed by the Fangley Group. Omni Security Group. One of the most famous mercenary companies of the Northern Quadrant. They maintain a few scrappers under contract to handle tasks where their infamous overwhelming methods would prove too devastating or costly to employ. Many now famous officers in their army started as scrapper contractors. Share the Plunder. Loot acquired by the Omni Security Group in battle, with a few exceptions, is offered to all employees, including scrappers, at very competitive prices before being sold on the official markets. The Roundnet Association. The Roundnet Association of Augustine Explorers and Pioneers is an institution founded and led by Rogue Roundnet, a Hado noble who manages a small armada of scrappers tasked with the recovery of ancient artifacts, exotic creatures, glamorous slaves, and precious items for the delight and enjoyment of Hado nobility. Helping Hand. If Roundnet's agents ever find themselves in trouble with the law, he is ready to unleash his legion of lawyers to assist them. Of course, with the expectation that his kindness will be repaid once the task is completed. CT Trade Pact, Augustine Branch. The CT Trade Pact is an independent corporocracy that manages a small but wealthy region of space in the junior sector. While it officially condemns the employment of scrappers, it makes ample use of their services to obtain an edge over its competitors, or to recover precious assets beyond the grasp of their own agents. Magellan. The CTP has excellent astrographers, and no scarcity of strategically placed agents and facilities in the sector and beyond. Handling the logistics of space travel and exploration will be much easier. Order of Sacred Ascension. The Ascensionist faith venerates ancient humanity, from the time before the collapse. They believe mankind was close to ascension, and that through their technology they would have soon transcended beyond matter. Thus they are always on the hunt for artifacts, even broken ones, anything to reveal, piece by piece, the ancient design. Holy Mission. The Order is the best source of information on artifacts, and they are willing to share their knowledge. Also, while they cannot offer competitive prices, they will buy any scrap of ancient tech you can find. Specialization. Choose one main specialization, and up to 2 secondary ones. Sabotage. Scrappers are sometimes tasked with the sabotage of the contractor's enemies, usually rival corporations trying to gain an advantage over each other. Scrapper saboteurs are involved with the impairment of important facilities and factories, disruption of communications, false flag operations, fabrication of scandals, and other acts of sabotage. Ship recovery. Even with modern technology, the vastness of space is dangerous to traverse, and minor issues can quickly compound into insurmountable problems, damning ships and their crew. There are scrappers that specialize in tracking and recovering lost ships, to repair them, recover their cargo, or to retrieve the remains of lost relatives. Xenoprocurement. More than half the galaxy is still almost entirely unexplored. Even in known space, new planets teeming with life are a common discovery. Many scrappers make a living by cataloguing new species, and capturing specimens for mercenary companies, pharmaceutical corporations, or the occasional eccentric billionaire looking for an exotic pet. Exploration. Despite centuries of effort, countless systems are still entirely unexplored, and equally many routes uncharted. Many scrappers work as explorers and prospectors, to document potential sites for new colonies, to identify deposits of precious natural resources, or to find new efficient paths for commercial traffic. Privateering. A trade as old as the art of shipmaking. The bad reputation the name scrapper carries mostly comes from those that accept to become privateers for a corporation or a government. Most of these scrappers are involved in actions of piracy against cargo ships, production facilities, and trade stations. Artifact acquisition. Countless ruins of ancient civilizations can be found in the galaxy, of aliens that never reached the stars, of dead spacefaring empires, and remains of the first colonization wave, the golden age of humanity. Many scrappers dedicate themselves to the recovery of lost cultures and technology for interested individuals, universities, and corporations. Data retrieval. Knowledge is power, be it in the form of military intelligence, blackmail material, corporate internal reports, technical blueprints, or secret documents. Many scrappers are employed as spies and infiltrators, involved in industrial espionage, data theft, infiltration of enemy governments and institutions, etc. Asset transport. Scrappers are often called to move essential assets from place to place in a discreet and safe manner. This may involve protecting important cargo from pirates and competitors, moving dangerous and unstable substances, or smuggling precious resources away from the tyrannical eye of the law. Target extraction. Scrappers are called to intervene where corporate assault squads and state troops cannot reach, or are unwilling to expose themselves. The retrieval, capture, or rescue and safe transport of important individuals is a common task for scrappers, but also one of the most dangerous ones. Asset denial. While rare, some scrappers dedicate themselves to the art of assassination and targeted destruction. Corporations are constantly at war with each other, so denial contracts are common and well paid, but dangerous and may leave the scrapper isolated, as the non-killers really trust those that are willing to murder for a living. Asset protection. In some cases, protecting a precious asset requires subtlety and subterfuge, which big mercenary firms cannot offer or guarantee. A scrapper is often called in these cases, and having some specialised in this field, refining their skills as bodyguards and security experts to protect important individuals and locations. Crisis management. In sectors where colonisation is still underway and the borders of human space are still being drawn, many small communities and colonies often face situations that are simply insurmountable for them. Thus, they have to resort to veteran scrappers specialised in rescue operations, crisis management, and relief effort organisation. General traits. Choose as many as you like. Stunted education. Your formal education was interrupted early. As a consequence, your knowledge is limited. You start with just 2 base skills. Choose 1 extra, 2 cyber mods, or 2 gene mods, or 1 special weapon, or 2 pieces of equipment, or 2 ship upgrades, or 2 home base upgrades, or 1 favour or connection, or 1 companion. Akami syndrome. You suffer from the rare Akami syndrome, which causes your body to reject most cyber mods. You can only use expensive, custom-built cybertech. You start with no cyber mods. Choose 1 extra, 1 skill, or 2 G mods, or 1 special weapon, or 2 pieces of equipment, or 2 ship upgrades, or 2 home base upgrades, or 1 favourite connection, or 1 companion. Genetic rights management. One of your ancestors sold your family's DNA to a corporation, who bioencrypted it. It cannot be modified without their encryption key. You start with no G mods. Choose 1 extra, 1 skill, or 2 cyber mods, or 1 special weapon, or 2 pieces of equipment, or 2 ship upgrades, or 2 home base upgrades, or 1 favour connection, or 1 companion. Left for dead. Not too long ago you were robbed blind. Left alone on an almost empty station at the edge of space, with nothing more than the clothes you had on your back. You start with no equipment, but you can gain more. Choose 1 extra, 1 skill, or 2 cyber mods, or 1 special weapon, or 2 ship upgrades, or 2 home base upgrades, or 1 favour connection, or 1 companion. Identity theft. At some point in your life, a thief managed to get a hold of your personal identity and use your persona to make a quick buck, burning many bridges in the process. You start with no favour connections. Choose 1 extra, 1 skill, or 2 cyber mods, or 2 G mods, or 1 special weapon, or 2 pieces of equipment, or 2 ship upgrades, or 2 home base upgrades, or 1 companion. VR vertigo. Because of some quirk in your nervous system, you experience moderate to severe distress while in virtual reality. You can handle only short sessions. You cannot take VR training, but you are more aware of the limits and capabilities of your physical body, and your own mortality. Psydull. You are one of the few individuals that were born without any psychic potential. People with such a condition usually experience emotions and sensations slightly less intensively than the norm. You cannot take any psi powers. However, you are highly resistant to psi abilities and phenomena. If you wish, you can ignore the psychological effects of the trait. Psi sensitive. Your psi potential is quite high. People in this category experience emotions and sensations slightly more intensively, and get tired slightly more quickly. A single item granting psi powers will give you access to 2 instead of 1, but you will be very vulnerable to psi abilities and phenomena yourself. If you wish, you can ignore the psychological effects of the trait. Critical injury. During a tough fight or due to an accident, you suffered a grave injury that almost killed you. You survived, but one of your critical biological functions is now managed by a medical implant, whose failure may kill you in a matter of hours. Choose 1 extra, 1 cyber mod, or 1 G mod, or 1 piece of equipment, or 1 ship upgrade, or 1 home base upgrade. Combat paralysis. Due to a traumatic experience in the past, you suffer from combat paralysis in dangerous situations. Independently from your mental state, your body freezes up. While you improve with time, it still takes some mental effort to unfreeze your muscles and react to the threat. You cannot take any combat skill. Take 1 extra skill. Difficult socialization. Your childhood was complicated, to say the least. As such, you never really learned how to interact with others in a positive way. You struggle to react the right way, and seem to miss most non-verbal social cues. With time you improve, but some scars are still present. You cannot take any social skill. Take 1 extra skill. Functional illiterate. Because of your history, situation or physical state during your learning years, you never developed the mental tools necessary to understand complex writing. While you considerably improved in the last few years, you still struggle to pass complicated text. You cannot take any science skill. Take one extra skill. For the purposes of determining what skills are available with combat paralysis, difficult socialization, or functional illiterate, consider combat skills, combat training, intelligence, cyber warfare, stealth, explosives, tactics. Social skills are psionics, diplomacy, arts and entertainment, investigation, management, and xenology. Science skills are biology, chemistry, astroengineering, medicine, archaeology, cybernetics, mechanics, and electronics. Skills. Choose up to 3 skills and upgrade up to 1 to mastery. Requires the base skill. Note that possessing a skill means being particularly, if not exceptionally, proficient in it. Lacking it does not imply incapacity or incompetence in that area of expertise. VR training can be taken only once, and occupies 1 skill slot of the 3 available. You can turn 2 skill slots, not from VR training, into a mastery, but you cannot have more than 2 masteries in total. VR assisted training. You have made use of VR technology to speed up your education, efficient but not as effective as more traditional methods. Take 1 mastery or 2 more skills, however your effective proficiency in them will be lower than normal. Combat training. You have experience of unarmed, melee and ranged combat, and/or you have received military training. Mastery. You have experience with more exotic weaponry such as laser, plasma, and/or ship or vehicle mounted guns. In-gravity piloting. You are trained and/or have experience with the piloting of ground and flying vehicles in high gravity environments. Mastery. You are well trained in the use of more exotic vehicles such as maglevs, legged mechs, and treaded vehicles. Void piloting. You are a well-experienced pilot, familiar with Augustine's astrography, and his most important interstellar routes. Mastery. You are a seasoned pilot, able to navigate dangerous anomalies and fields with relative ease. Biology. You have an impressive knowledge of the many living beings and ecological systems found in human space. Mastery. You have intimate knowledge of the genetic wealth of human space, and you have training in genetic engineering. Chemistry. You are well educated in the discipline and have excellent knowledge of many useful compounds and substances. Mastery. You are an expert in the synthesization of refined materials. Astrofuel, drugs, and other substances. Astroengineering. You are knowledgeable in the science and technology behind spaceships and void structures. Mastery. You are intimately familiar with the design of almost all ships and stations common in the Augustine sector. Medicine. You are educated and/or trained in the diagnosis and treatment of most injuries and illnesses common in the sector. Mastery. You have experience in performing many complex procedures, surgeries, and treatments. Archaeology. You are an expert in the history of the sector, its many dead civilizations and ancient lost colonies. Mastery. You are intimately familiar with the lost and present cultures, traditions, languages, and technologies of the sector. Psionics. You have a remarkable understanding of psionic theory, its applications, as well as most common psionic phenomena. Mastery. You are an expert in the training of natural science and the application and functioning of psionic implants. Cybernetics. You are educated and/or experienced in the design, production, and maintenance of robots and cybernetic implants. Mastery. You have remarkable experience in the design and maintenance of robots, androids, and synthetic limbs and organs. Diplomacy. You are trained and/or have experience in the formulation of contracts and conducting negotiations between parties. Mastery. You are highly persuasive and an expert negotiator, able to sell a spaceship to avoid one. Survival. You are trained and/or have experience with the art of surviving on minimal resources and in dangerous situations. Mastery. You are an expert in the handling of dangerous animals and plants, as well as lost-in-space crisis situations. Intelligence. You are trained and/or have experience in the gathering of data through acts of infiltration, interception, and espionage. Mastery. You are an expert analyst and infiltrator, able to acquire precious data even from very secure locations. Arts and entertainment. You are trained and or have experience in the production and performance of visual, literary and performing arts. Mastery. You are an impressive artist and entertainer, able to easily fascinate people with your charm and talent. Cyber warfare. You are educated and or experienced in computational theory, computer science, cryptology and telecommunications. Mastery. You possess an impressive knowledge of most security systems, even military-grade ones. Mechanics and electronics. You are educated and or have experience in the maintenance and repair of mechanical machinery and electronic devices. Mastery. You have a bounty of experience in the design and construction of complex machines and devices. Explosives. You are trained and or have experience in the use, manufacturing and application of explosive devices. Mastery. You are particularly adept in the use of explosives in the low gravity and or pressurized environments. Stealth. You are trained and or have experience in the art of remaining undetected and unseen by human or artificial eyes. Mastery. You are an expert at keeping your ship or vehicle under the radar of watchful hostiles. Tactics. You are well educated and or are experienced in tactical analysis and command of small units of combatants. Mastery. You are an expert tactician and can more often than not accurately predict your enemy's next move on the battlefield. Investigation. You are well trained in the art of analysing evidence, piecing together clues, solving mysteries and making logical deductions. Mastery. You are intimately familiar with criminology and forensic science, as well as Augustine's criminal underground. Management. You are educated and or have experience in the management of funds, resources and business operations. Mastery. Your business acumen is highly refined. You are an expert at dealing with both logistical and financial challenges. Xenology. You are educated and or have experience dealing with xenobiology, ecology, and cultures present in the Augustine sector. Mastery. You are an expert in xeno-human ecological and cultural interactions. You can interact as a peer with aliens. Athletics. You are well educated on how to train, use and apply your body in physically demanding tasks. Mastery. You are an impressive athlete. You are able to perform remarkable feats of strength and agility with ease. Cyber warfare. Choose up to 3 cyber mods. Note that these are uncommon, expensive mods or unavailable in civilian markets. More common and affordable cyber mods such as replacement limbs, medical mods, aesthetic mods or data jacks are always available. Second-hand implants can only be taken once and occupies 1 cyber mod slot of the 3 available. Second-hand implants. You could not quite afford good quality implants, so you decided to find spare implants, functional but less powerful and with higher maintenance. Take 2 more implants, however they will be less effective and reliable than normal. 3D Maneuvering Assistant. This implant is composed of a series of sensors and neural interpreters that allow the user to navigate in a 3D environment, such as open space, in a natural and intuitive way, without loss of orientation or spatial awareness, following sudden changes in direction. Subdermal armor implants. This implant consists of a series of millimeter-thin plates inserted under the skin, effective at stopping blades, most pistols and some rifles. If damaged, they can fairly easily be extracted and substituted. The cover is not total. Joints and highly mobile areas are less protected. Universal limb mount. This implant is grafted into arms, legs, hands or feet. It is able to house a variety of tools such as engineering tools, surgical instruments, retractable needles with poison or drug dispensers, hidden blades, limb-mounted guns. Changing tools requires a quick surgical operation. Shock management implant. This implant consists of a network of soft yet strong polymer pads attached to the skeletal structure and joints. Their function is to absorb shocks and stress, compensating for violent impacts, collisions and falls. Logic Processor Assistant. This implant consists of a microprocessor with a sophisticated neural interpreter that allows the user to intuitively solve logical, geometrical and algebraic problems, otherwise too complex for biological brains. However, its effective computational power is fairly limited. Memory Assistant. This implant consists of a powerful microdrive, able to store an impressive amount of information for its size and power requirements, allowing the user to recall information easily and quickly. The implant can also record visual and auditory data. Psionic implant. This implant is able to amplify the natural sensitivity of sentient beings to psychic phenomena, and allows for the manifestation of psychic powers in the user. Take 1 psychic power. Trauma Recovery Implant. This implant consists of several devices implanted in the brain, lungs and heart of the user. Their function is to monitor the functionality of vital organs and provide emergency electrochemical stimulation if their bioparameters should fall to life-threatening levels. Microgenerator Implant. This implant, grafted of the chest, consists in a microgenerator coupled with a microbattery that utilizes the natural metabolism of the body to slowly generate electrical energy, useful in situations where electricity is unavailable or to provide other implants with more power. Drone Ports Implants. These small implants allow the user to house drones between a few millimeters to a few centimeters in length in their body. They can be remotely controlled by the user to explore or operate in areas that would otherwise be too dangerous or small for them to access directly. Oxygen Storage Implant. This implant is able to store up to half an hour worth of oxygen. The implant monitors the level of oxygen in the blood and automatically releases its reserve if too low. If instead levels are high, it captures small quantities of oxygen from the bloodstream to refill itself. Palm Spectrometer. This implant consists of a palm-mounted short-range spectrometer. It allows the user to determine with decent accuracy the chemical composition of substances and materials just by placing their hands near the target. Their analysis does not require direct physical contact. Emotional Assessor. This implant monitors temperature, facial muscles movements, changes in the skin, and eyes to determine the most likely emotional state of the target. It also provides the user with an evaluation of the chances the target might be lying or telling the truth. Neural Preservation Implant. This implant consists of a layer of special self-healing polymers implanted in the spine and brainstem. Its main function is to protect the central nervous system and prevent irreparable damage to it in case of injury, while assisting in the healing process. Sensory Inhibitor. This implant, installed off the cortex, allows the user to modulate the strength of sensory input. For example, strong lights, loud sounds, intense sensations of heat, cold, or pain can be toned down to allow the user to operate at or near full focus even in such difficult conditions. EndoBoost. This implant is installed in the spine. It acts on the autonomous nervous system and the endocrine system to provide some control over them. In practice, it allows the user to regulate physical readiness, to speed up recovery after an effort, and to relax the body to full light detectors. Smart Joints. This implant replaces most articulations with synthetic equivalents, which possess a higher degree of freedom in their movement. The mod allows the user to move, bend, and twist farther than before, without risking injury. Mag Pads. Several magnetic pads placed at strategic points of the body. They allow the user to adhere to metal surfaces to walk naturally in a zero-G environment. It can also be used to climb metal structures, or secure the user to moving vehicles. Cybertail. A detachable tail, grafted to the base of the spine. It can be controlled directly to grab small objects or to attack, but its main function is in automatically maintaining the user's balance, to allow for more complex maneuvers, as well as lessening the chances of being knocked prone. Gene Mods. Choose up to 3 gene mods. Note that these are uncommon or expensive mods, or unavailable in civilian markets. More common and affordable gene mods, such as replacement organs, medical mods, or simple aesthetic mods, are always available. Unlicensed claim can be taken only once, and occupies 1 gene mod slot of the 3 available. Unlicensed clinic. High quality doctors and facilities are well beyond your means, but there are other ways to obtain good treatments, and for a competitive price. Take 2 more treatments, however they will be less effective than normal. Nunya treatment. This genetic treatment is a package of aesthetic adjustments and improvements aimed at making the user as attractive as possible. The treatment is most effective for those that seek conventional beauty, but it can also change or combine male and female features. Dermal insulation. This Gmod modifies the skin to be able to produce special insulating substances that allow the user to remain comfortable even at extreme temperatures. These substances quickly break down at normal temperatures, so they do not impair the normal physiological functions of the body. Radiation resistance. This treatment consists of a series of modifications that let the organism better detect, repair or remove damaged tissue. Long-term damage caused by exposure to ionizing or cosmic radiation is lessened and made partially recoverable. Immunization treatment. This complex Gmod provides the user's organism with the means to protect itself from most known pathogens and a number of dangerous toxins. The treatment is not 100% effective and severely struggles against rapidly mutating agents or quick-acting compounds. Enhanced digestive system. This treatment acts on the stomach and intestines to render them capable of digesting a wider range of organic substances. It allows the user to survive on a carnivorous diet, digest plant fibers, common alien lifeforms, and even some plastic compounds. Muscular reinforcement. This Gmod acts on the muscular structure of the user's organism to increase power and density of muscle fibers, without dramatically altering appearance. The net effect is a moderate increase in the physical strength, in particular of major muscle groups. Rejuvenation treatment. This treatment consists in several therapeutic cycles meant to repair and reverse, where possible, the effects of aging, effectively bringing the clock back up to 15 years. Generally, the brain is not touched, as there is a very high risk of losing memories and/or motor skills. Electroreception. This Gmod provides the user with the ability to perceive electromagnetic fields. This ability can be used to locate and identify living organisms and machinery in situations where sight is impaired, or if the target is hidden from plain sight, behind walls or other obstructions. Skeletal enrichment. This treatment modifies the skeletal structure by infusing it with compounds meant to strengthen its ability to withstand pressure, impacts, and torsion. The overall effect is a moderate increase in the durability and toughness of the user's bones. Third eye treatment. This Gmod provides the user with a set of genetic enhancements meant to increase sensitivity to psychic phenomena, with the overall effect of maximizing the user's potential as a psychic. Take 1 psionic power. Atrophic DNA. This Gmod restructures the DNA of the user so that it rapidly decays into an unrecognizable state within minutes, if separated from the rest of the body. This severely decreases the likelihood of obtaining viable DNA samples of the user without their knowledge and consent. Caustic gland. This Gmod creates a special gland able to produce a powerful acid that can be spit up to several meters. The acid is particularly effective against unprotected metallic alloys. The gland can produce about half a liter of acid per day. Rapid response. This treatment modifies the way the neural system activates muscular fibers to maximize speed and responsiveness. The overall effect is a moderate increase in the quickness and swiftness of the user's movements, and a similar increase in explosive strength. Renal filters. This Gmod restructures the user's kidneys to be able to filter with increased finesse and efficacy, allowing the user to eliminate a higher number of harmful agents or waste products from the bloodstream. A side effect is an increased difficulty in getting drunk or high. Microgravity adaptation. This treatment aims to reduce the effects of microgravity on the organism, allowing the user to live in space longer with fewer short and long-term effects on their bodies. The treatment also speeds up recovery once the user re-enters normal gravity environments. Neural bridge. This Gmod acts on the corpus callosum, increasing the number of connections and improving the existing ones. The main effects are threefold. The user will become ambidextrous and will experience a slight to moderate improvement in creativity and lateral thinking. Biosynthesizer. This treatment will create a small gland capable of producing and secreting simple chemicals, such as disinfectants, cleaning agents, or drugs. The substance can be changed with a simple injection. The change will require about a day. Licenses for chemical production sold separately. Enhanced ocular pathways. This Gmod partially restructures the neural clusters dedicated to the elaboration of visual sensory data. The overall effect is an increased capability of pattern recognition, making it easier to spot threats, camouflage enemies, and ambushes. Pollution tolerance. This treatment aims to enhance the resistance of the body against pollutants commonly found in urban and industrial centres, by enhancing the effectiveness of the metabolic processes involved on the elimination of toxins, and by acting on the cellular receptors sensitive to pollutants. Psi abilities. Choose up to 0 Psi ability. To acquire Psi abilities, you will have to equip yourself with proper cyber mods, gene mods, or equipment. Wild experimentation can be taken only once, and occupies one Psi ability slot. Notes on Psi abilities. 1. While some individuals and alien species possess innate psionic talent, no creature on record is capable of manifesting psi powers without the support of technological enhancements. 2. Psionic abilities tire the users quickly and cause a notable increase of psychological and physiological stress if used for too long or too frequently. 3. The target of a psi ability needs to be within the field of perception of the user, directly, through, for example, sight or sound, or indirectly, through, for example, a video camera or a thermosensor. Wild experimentation. You joined, willingly or not, a series of experiments to augment your psi potential. They worked, but you have a shaky control of your newfound powers. Take 2 more abilities. However, they will be unreliable sometimes. Psilink. This ability allows the user to form strong psychic bonds with non-sapient minds, enough to let the two consciousnesses merge. For a limited time, the user can leave their body behind and take control of the body of an animal that is not hostile towards the user. Mind Drill. This psi ability allows the user to penetrate sentient minds and attempt to extract information from them. The ability is not subtle. The target will be aware of what is happening. Also, only conscious thoughts can be extracted, and it is up to the user to discriminate true from false. Shadow. This ability allows the user to remove themselves from the possession of another person. The target will still be able to see, touch, or hear the user, but they will not be aware of their presence and will ignore the user as long as they are under the ability's influence. Mind Blank. This ability allows the user to disrupt the short-term memory of the target, causing them to momentarily lose their focus and making the short-term planning of their actions much more challenging. A target that is aware of being subject to this ability can attempt to resist its effects. Emphatic Chain. The user can create a temporary psychic link between 2 individuals, one of which may be the user, that forces each target to experience the emotions of the other. Psi-capable individuals may attempt to suppress extraneous emotions. Psychic Scream. The user can perform a powerful psychic blast that momentarily saturates the noosphere surrounding them. Normal individuals will feel a sense of unease and distress, while psi-capable individuals will be temporarily confused, dazed or in pain. Telepathy is temporarily impossible. Telepathy. This ability allows the user to mentally communicate thoughts and memories to other individuals. The target, or targets, does not need to be a psi-capable individual to receive the message, but in such case cannot directly respond through telepathy. Oniric Infiltration. This ability allows the user to enter the dreams of their target and participate as part of the oniric illusion. The user is able to act as they wish within the confines of the dream, but the target can easily oust the user, if they become aware of their intrusion. Psi Tracing. By reading the traces left in the noosphere, by past interactions, the user can intuitively understand the usage of an unknown object, and achieve a basic ability in its use themselves. The more often an object has been used in the past, the more effective this ability will be. Psi Infusion. The user is able to focus and divert their mental energy into their bodies or specific parts of their bodies. This allows them to operate at heightened strength, speed, and precision. Emotions and sensations are equally heightened, and they may overwhelm the user if too intense. Focus Awareness. If an individual is watching or listening to the user, they are made aware of it. The user instinctively knows the general location of their observer, but not their exact position or identity. The ability does not register partial or fleeting attention, only active, sustained observation. Psi Endurance. This ability allows the user to survive critical biological failure for a short time. The user may survive dismemberment, lethal blood loss, suffocation, extreme cold, disease, poisoning, etc., longer than what is biologically possible. Paralysis. With this ability, the user is able to artificially induce a REM-like sleep state in the target, causing them to fall asleep and completely lose control of their body. For this ability to work, the target must be in a state of relaxation. Intrusive Hallucination. The user can generate subtle illusionary images, tactile sensations, sounds or smells in the target. The user can determine the rough nature of said sensations, while the target's imagination will fill in the blanks. The ability can be resisted if the target is aware of being subjected to it. Eye-link. If the user develops strong bonds with another sapient being, they may acquire the ability to perceive the world through the target's senses, as if they were their own. Experienced users may also do the opposite, though it will be much harder to do if the target is not a Psi user. Weapon preference. This section is optional. Choose up to one main weapon preference. You'll be able to effectively wield your preferred types of weapons, even if you lack combat training. Note that regardless of your choice, you will have access and or possession of any kind of weapon described in this section. Traditional weapons. A few scrappers prefer weapons such as swords, knives, bows and crossbows, or to fight unarmed. Outclassed in a straight fight by more advanced weapons, but with few key advantages. They are silent. They do not jam or recoil, and work well in cramped conditions. Handguns. Most scrappers have at least a pistol as a backup weapon. Most models are simply chemically propelled kinetic guns, but magnetic propulsion models exist. Handguns are light, easy to conceal, but can deliver quite the punch nonetheless. SMGs. Common among scrappers because of the high rate of fire, relatively small size and weight, and the small caliber, less likely to pierce ship hulls, thus safer to use in space, as with handguns the overwhelming majority of models are chemically propelled. Shotguns. Another powerful choice for scrappers. Shotguns can be powerful weapons, highly lethal against unarmored foes, but fairly safe to use on ships due to low penetration. They do have a short range, however, and struggle against armor. Assault rifles. Assault rifles are rarer between scrappers as main weapons, since most fights take place at fairly close range. Magnetal propulsion is more common for rifles, since the bigger size affords the weapon a higher power output, but chemical propulsion is still the norm. Sniper rifles. In most contracts, fights are expected, but if possible avoided. Because of this, most scrappers arm themselves with self-defense weapons. For those that do expect fights or specialize in them, sniper rifles are excellent weapons. Special weapons. Choose one special weapon. Note that these are experimental or uncommon weapons a scrapper would not normally possess. More standard weaponry is always available. No special weapon. You do not possess rare or experimental weapons, either because you do not trust experimental tech, or you prefer a pacifist approach, or maybe you simply never had the opportunity to acquire one. Take one extra piece of equipment. Silvertech Needle Gun. The needle gun accelerates bullets through rapid rotation of its circular magazine. It is completely silent, has a high rate of fire, can shoot unconventional projectiles such as ones made entirely of ice, and has no recoil, but it is fairly inaccurate and is lethal only if vital areas are hit. A Darien Pain Gun. Common among slavers, this gun projects a focused electromagnetic beam that stimulates pain receptors, causing a temporary sensation of pain in the targeted area. The intensity can go from mild discomfort to agony. The effects generally vanish with the beam. Volt Gun. An experimental anti-drone design that uses a weak laser to guide a lethal electric discharge up to shotgun range, but the flow can be diverted into highly conductive obstacles near the target, and does not work in vacuum. The gun needs to cool down and recharge after full blasts. Prototype Plasma Shotgun. Plasma weapons are rare due to their high production costs compared to comparatively lethal weapons. They are tremendously effective, especially against armored targets, but their accuracy and lethality rapidly decrease with range, as the plasma shot loses cohesion and thermal energy. Experimental Laser Rifle. Packing the enormous power requirements of lasers into a rifle is a serious challenge. Thus, they are as rare as personal plasma weapons. The existing prototypes are fairly low power compared to conventional rifles, but they have the advantage of being extremely accurate and recoilless. Waylight Combat Knives. To augment the potential of the humble combat knife, Waylight designed a series of mods. The most successful are an explosive add-on, a chemical injector, and an electrical discharger. They never reached mass production, but their designs are available for purchase. Outerwatch Sonic Rifle. Able to generate sonic waves of various intensity and frequency. Mostly used as a non-lethal weapon, it has enough force to kill a person or crack walls, if attuned to their resonance frequency. The rifle, however, does not work in vacuum, and the sound wave is much slower than bullets. Equipment. Choose up to 4 pieces of equipment. hand, note that these are uncommon items a S.C.R.A.P.E.R would not normally possess. More standard items, like clothes, ammunition, medical supplies, or common tools are always available. Just as new cell can be taken only once, and occupies one equipment slot of the 4 available. Just as new sale. Whenever there is a shootout, scavengers will come to clean up the scraps and resell everything at a fraction of the price. Take 1 extra special weapon, or 2 extra pieces of equipment. However, they will be less reliable and accurate or effective. Ballistic clothes. Designed for corporate managers and politicians, these clothes are made of a special fabric. Identical in appearance to normal clothes, just slightly heavier, but strong enough to stop bullets and blades with ease. They are not particularly comfortable and tend to overheat the user. Outer Watch Camo Cloak. Made of materials able to bend light around itself, the Chroma Camo Cloak renders the wearer invisible to the naked eye and on the infrared spectrum. Their shadow is also almost completely removed. The cloak does not protect against some EM sensors and sonars. Abelev Hazard Suit. The suit can keep internal temperature consistent, even in extreme circumstances. It can be sealed. It is equipped with an oxygen supply. It is electrically insulated, hardened against most acids, and shields the user from radiation. The suit is bulky, slow, and will not survive gunshots. Waylight Exoskeleton. The artificial muscles of the suit are designed to allow the user to sprint, jump and grip with great strength and speed. It can mount armor plates, slowing it down somewhat. The suit requires training to be piloted properly. Inexperienced users can easily injure themselves. Smart Gun Assistant. The Smart Gun Assistant is a weapon accessory that facilitates aiming by allowing the gun to fire only if a hostile target would be hit. It also blocks shots that would hit friendly targets. It can be set on specific parts like the head or the throat, rather than the whole body. Weapon Cyberlink. This weapon accessory wirelessly links the gun to the user's data jack. It is equipped with several sensors that instinctively integrate in the user's field of perception, allowing them to aim, throw or swing with speed and accuracy. It also allows the user to trigger their weapon remotely. TAR rounds. These subsonic polymer rounds are filled with a non-toxic substance, black in colour. When the bullet reaches the target, it shatters, releasing the substance, which quickly expands along the surface and then hardens. A well-aimed burst is enough to immobilize a limb, or jam a gun. Guided rounds. These experimental rounds are capable of adjusting their trajectory during flight. They will automatically attempt to reach their designated target, but can be programmed to take more elaborate routes. Their ability to change course is limited. Sharp curves are impossible. Psi blocker drugs. These drugs' main functionality is to shield the user from psionic abilities. However, they are not 100% effective. Powerful psychics may still manage to affect the user. Psi blockers may rarely cause a temporary loss of higher cognitive functions, which ends within half an hour. Sleepless drugs. These pills eliminate the need for sleep for a day. The user will tire at a reduced rate, will not lose focus due to sleep deprivation, and will not risk accidentally falling asleep. Frequent use can permanently damage the body and the mind of the user, so precaution is advised. Psi enhancers. These drugs are designed to enhance the natural psionic potential of the user. Their effect is intense but temporary. Rarely, they provoke the intrusion of brief visual, tactile, and/or auditory illusions. Prismatic smoke grenades. These grenades release a cloud of heated smoke, mixed with magnetically charged metal particles. The cloud, aside from providing a smokescreen, shields anything inside it from IR and radar sensors. It also disrupts the focus of laser beams, reducing their accuracy and lethality. Mantis grenades. These 2-stage thermobaric grenades initially release an odorless, colourless gas. They can be remotely triggered to engage the second stage, which releases a second gas, causing a violent reaction capable of scorching entire rooms in seconds. Very high temperatures can also ignite the gas. Sunlight grenades. These grenades produce a powerful EMP blast on detonation, able to disable or even destroy unshielded electronic devices. The detonation also floods the immediate vicinity with enough light and sound to blind and deafen any nearby individual. Neudraline. Psi users that take this substance enter an intense altered state of consciousness. Often used as a psychedelic drug by corporate psi agents, it can also be used to neutralize psionic threats. as it makes it impossible to use psi abilities while the drug remains in circulation. Biometric Full Toolkit. This toolkit is a set of specialized tools to create artificial replicas of retinas, fingerprints, hair, spit, or even full-face masks to form biometric sensors. Valid samples from the intended target aren't necessary for the replication, and the process takes a few hours to complete. Life Boost Medical Assistant. Designed to keep lethal injuries under control until better care can be provided. Once activated, it will clean the wound, cauterize injured veins, reoxygenate the blood, and inhibit local pain receptors. The tool is quite invasive and should only be used on life-threatening wounds. Portable Hollow Projector. A small hollow projector about the size of an apple, capable of creating holographic imagery at several meters or distance, with high enough resolutions that close proximity is required to be certain of their fake nature. Due to its small size, the projector has a battery life of a few hours. CTP Data Tool. This item is an instrument designed to recognize target objects or life forms. The data tool can make use of visual, auditory, technical, or biological data. Due to limited memory in their portable form, they are usually specialized in a discipline or astrographical area. Echo Mapper. This tool is designed to assist with the navigation of unknown locations. Once activated, it will attempt to generate a 3D map of the environment it is in through the emission of sound waves. It is designed to work indoors, but can be used outdoors, although with reduced accuracy. Voice Modulator. The voice modulator is a tool able to reproduce any message supplied by the user in any previously recorded voice print, thus imitating the voice of specific humans or aliens, or disguising the user's own. The result improves with the quantity of material supplied. Nu Locator. An experimental tool that utilizes the trace left in the noosphere by a target individual to locate or identify locations, people or objects of personal importance, or frequent use. Before use, the tool needs to remain in close vicinity of the target for a few minutes to register their trace. Korovin Safe Containment. This tool is designed to provide safe storage for delicate items, anomalous material, or dangerous objects that are otherwise not safe to be carried. The container shields against radiation, heat, and EM waves, so its contents cannot be easily determined from the outside. Scrambler. This device is designed to sabotage computer systems. Once plugged in, it will unload terabytes of junk data and execute thousands of functions, overloading the system. It is also useful for concealing the user's activity. Concealable Jammer. A powerful for its size, jamming device, capable of disturbing or completely interrupting wireless communications in a small area. It is sufficiently small that it can be disguised as a common item. It has fairly limited battery life, especially if used at maximum strength. Full Safe Pack. The Full Safe Pack is a small device designed to slow down the user while in freefall. It does so by manipulating air currents and pressure around the user. The effectiveness of the device depends on the gravity of the planet and the density of the atmosphere. Abolev's Safety Bubble. The Abolev's Safety Bubble is a survival device designed to protect the user in case of danger while in space. It consists in a self-inflating bubble with enough space to house 4 people at most, able to shield the user from vacuum. It has enough air for about 2 to 4 hours. Artifacts. Choose up to 1 artifact. Artifacts are relics of the first colonization era, or dead alien civilizations, created with technology that has been lost over the centuries. Artifacts are generally irreplaceable, partially damaged, and frequently near exhaustion. The exact nature of artifacts is usually unknown, so their behavior is often unpredictable. Only their more obvious functions are of common knowledge. Due to their rarity and value, a scrapper can come into possession of only one by stumbling upon it during an expedition or through thievery. No artifact. You do not possess an artifact. This may be because you never came across one, or maybe you just prefer to avoid old and unstable technology, or you simply needed money more than you needed an artifact. Choose 1 extra, 1 cybermod, or 1 Gmod, or 1 piece of equipment, or 1 ship upgrade, or 1 home base upgrade. Panacea. This artifact is an ancient medical device. If the person in contact with it has been lethally wounded or is about to fall to illness, the artifact activates, releasing unknown substances that will quickly restore the person to full health. Rarely, however, the artifact seems to ignore natural anatomy. It will relocate an organ or two, or modify a few facial features. Collapser. The original function of this object is unknown. Once activated, it will charge up for a few seconds. Then it will generate a powerful implosion, crushing into a single point anything located about 20 meters from it, leaving behind a ball of molten metals and carbonized remains. It seems the more massive entities to attract, the more violent and wide the implosion is. Life Seed. This artifact might be a terraforming device. Once activated, it will transform a bleak desert into a luxurious forest within a few hours. The artifact has an action range of about 30 meters. Once deployed, it will keep working as long as it is physically able to. It requires direct sunlight to function properly. Extreme heat or cold may restrict the effective range. Peacemaker. The original function of this relic is unknown. A few seconds from activation, it will detonate, releasing a psionic wave that will purge any aggressive or hostile sentiments from any sentient being within 30 meters from it. It will also cause temporary loss of higher cognitive functions. The victims will remain in this state for about an hour. Disassembler. Another artifact of unknown function. Once activated, it will dissolve into a silver cloud that will move towards the target. Once reached, the cloud will completely disassemble it, leaving behind only the base elements of the target, arranged in a set of cubes. The cloud has a limited lifespan, so it may fail to disassemble large objects during that time. Universal Key. This device can be applied to any form of electronic device with the exception of some other artifacts and equally exotic tech. The relic will quickly connect itself to the device and crack any security it is protected by. The artifact will then allow access to the device to anyone, without limitation. It will also openly broadcast the device's source code. Gladiator Sword. This artifact, when activated, generates a hologram in the shape of a sword. It is, however, completely solid, extremely light, and capable of cutting through most materials with ease. However, if used on organic life, it will automatically adjust its shape and size just enough to avoid causing anything more than superficial injuries. Black Hand. This device seems to be able to enhance the psionic power of an individual. With it in hand, the user can effortlessly peer into the minds of sentient beings without them becoming aware or being able to resist. The stolen thoughts and memories, however, have the tendency of merging with the user's own, mudding their own perception. Clarifier. Once activated, this artifact will attract and neutralize pollutants, poison, toxins, and pathogens in its vicinity, from the air and exposed surfaces. However, it refuses to work in the open, and its effects are skin deep. Furthermore, if left active for more than 2 minutes, it begins to attack exposed organic matter as well, breaking down food and causing burn-like injuries. Compass. This psionically active artifact is of unknown origin or function. It appears to be able to point the one holding in its hands towards the entity they desire. However, it is quite difficult to use, since the user has no way to know what item the artifact singled out from their thoughts, and it does not work with entities the user is not familiar with. Dustbin. The original function of this artifact is unknown. Once activated, it appears to be capable of completely annihilating any matter that is placed into it. What happens to the annihilated object is unknown. Sometimes it simply refuses to annihilate an item, with no apparent discernible pattern. It can deal only with objects small enough to completely fit in it. Personal ship. Choose one ship type. Note that all ships are equipped with the basic necessities and devices: living quarters, including kitchen, bunks and showers, a reactor, cargo space. Effective capacity depends on the type. Basic sensors, communications, damage control system, superluminal engine, autopilot, life support, limited point defense. No ship. You can never afford a ship, or maybe you lost it in a fight, or a bet, or to debt. Instead, you regularly rent ships whenever necessary, buy passage on the transport, or good old hitchhiking. Sometimes a bit costly, but it avoids a lot of bureaucratic and financial headaches. Skip this section, and the ship upgrade section. You cannot take any option from them. Choose 1 extra, 2 cyber mods, or 2 G mods, or 1 special weapon, or 2 pieces of equipment, or 2 ship upgrades, or 2 home base upgrades, or 1 favor connection, or 1 companion. Civilian transport. Your ship is a relatively new civilian ship, originally designed for passenger transport. You, or its previous owner, radically re-engineered its internal structure and reinforced the hull to be able to sustain light combat and provide for the needs of a scrapper. Its reactor is powerful enough to support a few cannons, but it does not have the output to compete with bigger ships. Still, it performs surprisingly well considering its original design. Take high-gravity living quarters for free. Industrial transport. Your ship was originally an industrial hauler, dedicated to the transportation of large quantities of raw resources or industrial products. While rather small for commercial standards, it is a pretty large ship for a scrapper. Thanks to its utilitarian design, it is very cheap to repair, maintain and fuel. Its size affords the hull good survivability, and its powerful reactor can support some decent firepower, but it is a slow beast, difficult to maneuver in a battle. Take basic fabricator for free. Scientific vessel. The ship was originally designed to be a science ship. It is a rather small vessel, capable of travelling at good speed and with surprisingly decent maneuverability. Its hull, however, is not designed to withstand punishment. A few well-aimed shots can easily perforate the outer walls. It has a fairly powerful reactor for its size. If properly equipped, it can definitely punch above its weight, but its durability makes even small battles a dangerous endeavour. Take small laboratory for free. Military patrol craft. It is uncommon but not rare that old combat vessels are sold to the public, or misplaced by bureaucrats. You managed to snatch a small patrol ship, otherwise destined to be recycled for parts. It took a while to bring it back to shape, but it was worth it. The ship obviously performs well in combat, good armour, top speed and manoeuvrability, and a reactor that can support some serious firepower. However, it is expensive to maintain, and it is not exactly an inconspicuous sight. Take targeting assistant for free. Recovered ancient ship. The first colonization wave left plenty of dead ships around. Their design is often outclassed by modern equivalents, but their craftsmanship is impressive even to this day. It is not that rare to find several centuries-old vessels still fully spaceworthy. You found one such craft, or you may have somehow acquired it. During the years, you slowly upgraded it to bring it on par with a modern civilian-grade vessel, with a few extra features. Take non-standard spaceslip for free. Lost courier ship. You scavenged this ship after the previous owner failed their last delivery. Many employers, criminals, executives, aristocrats, do not have any qualms with eliminating those that underperform at critical points. Fortunately for you, the ship that they left is a little jewel of engineering, incredibly fast at superluminal and subluminal speeds. Unfortunately, much was sacrificed to achieve that. The ship simply cannot survive anything but the lightest hits, and can support light weaponry at most. Take booster cells for free. Omni Security Dropship. You managed to catch this craft at a very good price, and added a good superluminal engine to it. These ships are built to deliver troops to the battlefield under constant fire. As such, they are spacious, enough to transport a full platoon, very well armoured, and surprisingly fast for their weight. It also performs well in high gravity, of course. Its downsides are its reactor, and therefore its firepower. That has rather limited output, and its Spartan design, that affords little comfort to the crew. Take a plate of armour for free. Build from scratch. Instead of buying a new vessel or obtaining a used one, you spent years collecting scraps from recycled parts to create your very own ship. Even with good expertise, such an endeavour would hardly make for a quality final product, but your creation performs rather well, if you can survive its little quirks. Furthermore, due to its unconventional layout, it is a difficult ship to navigate, search, infiltrate and assault, for both humans and robots. Take secret compartments for free. Mobile asteroid. This ship is little more than an asteroid with an engine strapped onto it. You, or whoever was crazy enough to build this ship, hollowed out parts of the asteroid to make room for the typical facilities you would find in other spacecraft. While the ship is structurally quite weak, it is surprisingly stealthy, as the rocket absorbs most heat and radio waves, and it can hide in an asteroid field with relative ease. Plus, it was rather inexpensive to build. Take auxiliary shuttle for free. Alien space vessel. This ship was not built by human hands. Instead, it was created to serve as a vessel for another race. You may have bought or stolen it, or maybe you have found it drifting in space or in the junkyard of a port. You had to jury-rig most subsystems to work with human standards and protocols, especially the life support system and user interface. Still, while it is a chore to pilot and maintain, the alien tech, unfamiliar movement scheme, and foreign sensor trace will give any hostile pause. Take probe launcher for free. Mining craft. This ship was originally used in mining operations, but it was eventually sold and recycled as a cheap personal transport. It is a sturdy and reliable ship, but quite small, and not pretty to look at. The reactor had to power its mining drill once, so it can generate a pretty decent amount of power, and can withstand some punishment, but it had to be retrofitted with a life support system, which it was not designed to support. Take magnetic net for free. Ship weaponry. Choose up to one weapon category. Skip this section if you chose the no ship option. Chemical propulsion. Guns powered by chemical energy. In raw power, outclassed by railguns, but with key advantages. They are cheap to produce and maintain. They run little energy to run, and injecting spent casings allows to vent excess heat, so they can keep firing for much longer without overheating. Magnetic propulsion. Guns powered by electromagnetic fields. The bread and butter of space combat, effective at long range and difficult to stop without many layers of heavy armor. However, they require a lot of energy to operate, and they have a high maintenance cost. Missiles. Missiles are a very versatile weapon, effective at very long range where even lasers struggle to maintain focus, able to adapt to many kinds of armor, and build up little heat. However, most ships are equipped with some basic point defense, and their ammunition is quite limited. Thermic based. Lasers are not only highly accurate even at long range and travel at the speed of light, but they also heat up the target, weakening their ability to keep fighting, even if the hit does not penetrate their armor. Unfortunately, they have an extremely high energy requirement. Ship upgrades. Choose up to 4 ship upgrades. Skip this section if you chose the no ship option. Note that second grade pass can be taken only once, and occupies 1 ship upgrade slot of the 4 available. Second grade parts. It was such a good deal, you could not resist it. Unfortunately, you got exactly what you paid for. It was a very cheap offer. Take 1 extra weapon type, or 2 extra upgrades. However, they will be less reliable and accurate or effective. Upgraded point defense. Most ships are equipped with basic point defense to destroy or shatter asteroids or space debris on collision course with a ship. They can be used against missiles, but they would not be that effective. You upgraded them to be able to weather down even serious missile barrages. Small med bay. You dedicated a small room to medical care, and outfitted it with a good robo-surgeon, a small but functional drug synthesizer, and a decent set of diagnostic equipment. You also managed to snatch 3 nice medical tanks at a good price, in case someone needs long-term care. Luxury living quarters. You spent a significant amount of money to turn the living quarters into a little slice of heaven. Entertainment systems, a well-supplied bar, high-quality furniture. Not only is it a nice respite from the Spartan life of a scrapper, but it may attract clients of a higher social status than usual. Basic fabricator. Fabricators are expensive machines, but they are undoubtedly extremely useful, as they are capable of turning raw resources into a variety of useful products. The one you manage to buy can build objects only of a limited complexity, size and quality, but is nonetheless a useful tool. Magnetic net. Capturing free floating objects in space is no easy feat. Thus, powerful magnetic fields are used to guide metallic pieces to the ship collector. For non-ferromagnetic materials, the ship is equipped with an iron flechettes launcher that lodge into the target in order to pull it to the ship. Hollow bay. You transformed an unused room into a hollow bay, where a series of projectors can render all kinds of scenarios with realistic quality. It is a useful tool to train, test an idea or a plan in safety, or to take a break and enjoy a relaxing scenery for a few hours. Booster cells. You manage to obtain a few booster cells, large devices that support the engine of the ship, providing an immediate flood of power whenever needed. They allow for faster acceleration and shorter charge time for superluminal speed, but they need time to recharge after use. Cryo storage. You installed a few cryotanks in one of the larger bays in the ship. While they hog a lot of energy, they provide a safe environment to store life specimens, artifacts, and samples in safety. They can also be used as containment for prisoners, or for severely ill or injured people. ID mask. An illegal upgrade to the ID tag of the ship. It is a small device that can quickly camouflage the ship's ID. The mask is not perfect and may be exposed if put under serious scrutiny, but even the best security software will take at least several minutes to do so. Emergency heat sinks. These devices are large superconductive cells that act as heat sponges. In case of overheating, they can be ejected to immediately cool the ship down to avoid damaging the structure or injuring the crew of the ship due to heat buildup. high-gravity living quarters. The most reliable way to create artificial gravity on spaceships is to have a constant rotation around its central axis. You manage to adapt the ship to support artificial gravity in its living quarters, without compromising the solidity of the ship's structure. Cyber Warfare Assistant. The Cyber Warfare Assistant is a narrow AI built to help protect the ship from cyber attacks and support the crew in their own cyber assaults. Of course, even military-grade assistants can be overwhelmed, and yours is not that advanced, but it is nonetheless a very useful tool. Auxiliary Shuttle. You transform one of the largest side rooms into a launch bay, and are quite a small but solid shuttle, able to carry 3 people. It is designed to move quickly and easily through the atmosphere of the planet, without risking the whole ship or wasting precious fuel by attempting planetfall. Repair Drones. You manage to acquire repair drones, able to conduct simple repairs autonomously, and capable of being remotely controlled for more complex tasks. Their presence saves the crew the need to go on spacewalks to repair the ship's hull, or to operate on dangerous pieces of machinery. Simple Laboratory. It often happens, especially in expeditions in uncharted territory, where you have to deal with unknown substances, life forms, technology and artifacts. A place to safely analyze them, therefore, is undoubtedly useful, so you've created a small lab, limited in scope but functional. Targeting Assistant. A narrow AI often found on combat vessels. Its main task is to assist the gunner in their job by providing a tactical analysis of the hostile ships, optimizing the acquisition of targets for the point defense system, and, if necessary, engaging the enemy autonomously. Non-standard space slip. You manage to acquire, or you build yourself, an engine that does not make use of standard spaceship procedures. Your route and destination will be harder to predict once you engage your FTL drive, and your arrival will be more difficult to detect. Secret Compartments. You manage to create several secret compartments, well camouflaged behind machinery and storage. Deflecting them will require more than your standard issue scanner. You even equip some with a couple tanks of oxygen, in case the ship needs to appear abandoned. Ablative Armor. You equipped your ship with ablative armor, built to resist non-kinetic attacks such as lasers or plasma sprays. It is vulnerable against solid projectiles, so it is normally used together with conventional armor. Generally, it will need maintenance after each battle. Spinal Gun Mount. Some would say that you can hardly have too much firepower. At great expense, you manage to provide your ship with a spinal mount, which can fit some serious weaponry. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of space and power, and the whole ship needs to be aimed at the target to land the shot. Probe Launcher. Scanners can only go so far. Sometimes you need to have a closer look to determine your next course of action. Thus, you decided to install a probe launcher on the ship, equipped with autonomous probes specialized in surveillance, threat assessment, or geobiological surveys. Auxiliary Reactor. The reactor is the heart of any ship. Without it, the spacecraft is dead. While most modern reactors are built in auxiliary power banks for emergencies, you decided to add another, smaller reactor, granting the ship some additional power and some redundancy for safety. Magnetic Shielding. Several powerful generators able to shroud the ship with magnetic fields, to bend the trajectory of incoming plasma clouds or ferromagnetic projectiles away from the ship. A useful additional layer of defenses, but costly in terms of power, and fairly situational in its effectiveness.
Home base. Choose one home base. No home base. You never settled down long enough to come to call a particular place your home, or maybe yours was a tactical choice. That base would only be a liability, one more opportunity for your enemies to sabotage you. Instead, you prefer to live on your ship, or rent a place whenever you have a need or desire for one. Choose one extra. One skill, or 2 cyber mods, or 2 G mods, or 1 special weapon, or 2 pieces of equipment, or 2 ship upgrades, or 1 favor connection, or 1 companion. Saturna. An independent station, originally a mining community that attracted the attention of unreputable business due to its privileged position, with easy access to many important systems. In time, Saturna became a luxurious resort for wealthy clients and criminals, coming to enjoy its casinos, brothels, and black markets. It is easy to find lucrative jobs, good opportunities, and rare resources here, but always remember that in Saturna, crime is law. Take secure black market access for free. The Buta Twins. The two massive stations of the Buta system were born when the corporation contracted to build the colony's spaceport went bankrupt. A second structure was started by another corporation, until a third company bribed their way into resuming work on the first. Today, the twins are an important commercial port and dockyard. Life here is comfortable and pleasant, but chaos and death are one boardroom meeting away, as the twins are prime targets for corporate black ops, plots and conspiracies. Take Android Assistant for free. The Never-Easy Gate. The ideal living conditions for Never-Easy and humans are fairly similar. Simple breathing masks are sufficient for a man to walk on their planets, yet due to their isolationist nature, the two species rarely interact. The Never-Easy Gate is an exception, a centre of commerce where humanity is tolerated for the sake of trade. The Never-Easy are not gentle hosts, but rarely allow human authorities to land, making the gate a cold but safe haven for those hunted by the powerful of Augustine. Take Personal Garden for free. Emir's Promise. Emir Station, or Emir's Promise, as it is more often called, is the fruit of an extremely ambitious project that aimed for the creation of a self-sustaining space station, capable of holding the population of the average colony in luxury and comfort. While initial progress was promising, issues quickly piled up, and thus funding began to wane. Today the station is an old relic, kept alive by its denizens. Life here is Spartan, with little of the promised luxury, but quiet and peaceful. A small island of serenity. Take hydroponics for free. City 31. The site of one of the ancient human cities that once were part of the first colonization wave. Later reclaimed, in time it became an important megalopolis. Cities with such history often choose to maintain their archaeological designation as their official name to honour the past, and encourage tourism. Human lives are easily lost in the vastness of City 31, which can be a blessing and a curse. Your name will quickly fall into obscurity, and with it enemies and opportunities. Take Front Business for free. The Highway Rings. The Highway system hosts a number of small mining communities in its asteroid belt. Highway became famous for being the spark of the revolt that would later become the Union of Free Augustine Systems, though its importance is, for the most part, symbolic. For an isolated and poor mining colony, Highway is a surprisingly lively place, with a strong sense of community, but its significance for the rebels makes it a prime target for retaliation against the Union. Take Assembler for free. Myar. Myar is a desert planet, just cold enough to support human life. It hosts the Myar Monastery, which is de facto under no other authority outside itself. The monastery is famous for its warriors, trained since childhood, chosen among the orphans that are left in the care of the monks. The monks do not prohibit entrance to their planet, knowing no authority would dare attack Myar. Many take refuge here, but plenty of them find their end on the blades of young monks, following their cryptic moral code. Take Training Arena for free. Curie Station. Curie Station is one of the few black hole platforms in the Augustine system. It produces many types of exotic matter that are then sold to research installations and industrial worlds. It is an unusual refuge for a scrapper, as work is hard to come by here, but it is also a relatively quiet home, not in small part due to the neighbour. Not many people can bear to live near a black hole, knowing any small technical difficulty might turn terminal. Take Laboratory for free. Haven. Haven is an independent and rather unremarkable station, far away from common routes. In its rusted hallways, every kind of individual can find refuge and a good deal, but the anarchic administration of the station leaves every man to fend for himself. Life in Haven is, well, scrappy. The station is old and kept together with duct tape and sweat, but it is also where one can cultivate connections and alliances with the worst scrappers and criminals the sector can offer. Take Private Dock for free. Exclusion Zone 57. EZ57 is covered with the crumbling remains of a planet-wide city of the first colonization wave. It is a dead world with a poisonous atmosphere, acid rain, and no trace of life. Yet the world is not still. The farther away you venture from the camp you establish, the more it is apparent that the spectre of the past still lingers on the surface. Architecture restructures itself, drones float around in erratic and menacing flocks, artificial flowers bloom at your passage, and wither away as you leave. Take Emergency Life Support for free. Numian's Landing. Numian's Landing is a recently colonized feral world. Outside of the planetary capital, most of the planet is still covered by an immense and continuous forest, whose average tree reaches 400 feet in height. Surprisingly, the fauna of the planet is rather minute compared to its megaflora or other animals found in human space. While it is an unusual place for a scrapper to settle, since it is a backwater planet in the middle of nowhere, its forest is a perfect place to hide a base or a treasure vault. Take escape tunnel for free. Home base upgrades. Choose up to 4 home base upgrades. Note that recycled materials can be taken only once, and occupies 1 slot of the 4 available. Also note that some options are not useful in certain locations. Recycled materials. It was hard to resist the generous offer that mysterious entrepreneur made. That said, it is probably a good idea to ignore those bone-looking bumps in the wall. Take 2 more home base upgrades, however they will be of a lower quality. Security vault. You build a small secure vault. It is an airtight, radio-shielded, controlled environment, equipped with cameras, scanners, and other security measures. There you can store valuable items, delicate artifacts, or potentially dangerous objects. Escape tunnel. It pays to always have a contingency plan. You built an escape tunnel in case your life is under threat during your stay. It is equipped with a small pod that will quickly transport you away from the base, and, hopefully, to safety. Workshop. You built a small but well-stocked workshop. The large area it occupies is filled with industrial machines, half-dismantled robots, prototypes, spare parts, and design documents. Here you experiment, tinker and test your heart's content. Laboratory. Probably one of your most expensive possessions, your laboratory is equipped with everything a scientist would need to perform accurate analyses and effective experiments. You may have chosen to specialize it in biology or physics or psionics, or left it as general as you could. Private dock. You managed to build a small dock for your ship while you stay in your home base. It is fairly small, but allows you to keep your craft safe and nearby. The dock is equipped with all the tools required to perform maintenance and repair work. Assembler. The assembler is a bulky machine, easily the size of a room. Its main function is to produce and assemble objects and devices it is supplied the design of. It cannot refine raw resources directly like a fabricator, but it can create much more complex devices, even cyberware. Defensive layout. You designed, or redesigned your home to be as difficult to assault as possible. You put blast doors in place, prepared traps, created choke points, and set up a complex surveillance network, covering every room and door. Quite expensive and laborious, but worth it. Personal garden. You created a garden to have a little slice of nature in your home. It is not impressive or particularly exotic. Nonetheless, it is the perfect place to relax, breathe in some good air, and play with your animal companions. Front business. Anonymity for a scrapper is often vital. To access your home base, one needs to go through what looks like a perfectly normal business, a pub, club, or small shop. You do not own the business, but pay the owners a small fee to keep your base hidden, and the door open. Safe room. You turned one of the rooms of your base into a bunker, reinforced walls and door, emergency power supply, food and oxygen reserves, plus items useful in case of catastrophic events or break-ins. The safe room is fairly well hidden, difficult to find, with no knowledge of its existence. Hydroponics. You have put aside one of the larger rooms to build a small hydroponic farm. It can produce many kinds of vegetables and fruits, items that are often absent from the scrapper's diet. While you may struggle to survive exclusively on this produce, it nonetheless is quite a luxury. Training area. You built a training area in your home base, a well-equipped gym to keep your body in good condition, a small arena to train with melee weapons, and a firing range to refine your marksmanship. You also acquired a couple of robot dummies to serve as sparring partners. Emergency life support. It was quite the laborious task, but you managed to create an emergency life support system. It will automatically engage in case monitored parameters fall below safety levels, and will do its best to keep the home's residents alive. Android Assistant. You acquired an Android Assistant, equipped with a simple but convincing emulated intelligence. While not cheap to maintain, it has proven quite useful as a caretaker of your home base and your person. Secure black market access. You equip your home with a secure connection to the black market. It facilitates buying and selling items through anonymous channels. It adds an additional layer of security, but if found, it can constitute quite the incriminating evidence. Private rooms. You decided to renovate the living area. In its place, you now have a series of separate rooms, complete with their private facilities, where one can find privacy and comfort. Also, your base is now also able to house your entire crew, and then some. Interstellar comlink. Or more accurately, a comm terminal with a direct link to one of the relay stations at the edges of the system, who can then deliver FTL data packets to other relay systems in their respective systems. The comlink allows you to communicate with other systems more rapidly and securely. Recreational area. You use one of the rooms to set up an area where you could spend some time relaxing, dedicating yourself to a hobby, or just having some fun between a contract and the next. Between VR stations, consoles, media libraries, and holoprojectors, it is pretty much everything you need. Self-destruct protocol. You carefully rig the entire base with explosives, packed within the walls and the ceiling. To trigger the self-destruct sequence, all you need to do is to input the code in the main terminal or a transmitter you bring with you, or maybe you opted for a dead man's switch. Connections and favors. Choose up to 2 connections or favors. Zephyr Medical Service. During your career, you have acquired quite a good standing with Zephyr's local office. Their services are expensive, even with the special employee discount, but their expert physicians are at your near immediate disposal, no questions asked. Diluca Manufacturing. After a particularly profitous contract, you are added to the Diluca's special clients list, which gives you access to their civilian restricted weaponry and lets you acquire exotic and experimental designs that have gotten accidentally misplaced during transportation. Dr. Benez's clinic. A nobody to most, an infamous name to some. Despite his reputation, you only had good experiences with the doctor, and in time you forged a good relationship, to the point he offers his cyber surgery skills to you for a pity. Better not ask where the cyberware comes from, though. Astral Legion 24. During one of your contracts, you managed to get the captain of the 24th Hado Rapid Deployment Fleet out of a very dangerous situation. Grateful, he mentioned he may be able to send a few ships to your rescue to return the favour, as long as the action would not be considered an act of war. Federation Internal Affairs. While in Federation space, you managed to obtain the favour of a fairly important official. Since he has access to the Federation archives, he may be able to scrub your criminal record, or that of someone else, as long as it is not too high a profile. Farron Syndicate. While fulfilling your contract, you managed to rescue an important member of the infamous Farron Syndicate, a less-than-legal organisation with impressive wealth and power. In exchange for your help, the sector boss promised to provide muscle for one of your operations. CTPI Requisition Unit. Extremely pleased with your performance, the manager of the Augustine branch of the CT Trade Pact Institute made you an honorary member of the CTPI Requisition Unit. Other than the questionable prestige the title carries, it affords you access to an important part of the CTPI data archives. Quantum Dragons. The Quantum Dragons are a renowned group of cybercriminals. During a mission, you tied up a dangerous loose end for them. Grateful for your assistance and discretion, they decided to offer you their extremely expensive services at a very healthy discount. Genesee's Oddities. The Genesee's brothers made their fortune fencing artifacts for trusted scrappers such as you. While they take a generous cut for themselves, the profits are generally quite a lot higher than what you could have done by yourself, with the added benefit of near untraceability. Theseus Scrapyard. Officially a recycling centre for old or non-functioning crafts, the Scrapyard is in truth the site of a thriving black market for stolen ships and ship parts. They are also capable of forging ship IDs and security records, a service they offer only to a select few of their clients. Glare Network. The Glare Network is an information broker in the business of buying and selling sensitive data to worthy clients. Normally just the access fee is too expensive for a scrapper, but you are granted free entry after impressing its mysterious owners with your performance. Luthian Herbal Remedies. Officially just a natural medicine shop, in truth a well-equipped drug producer, supplying a fair few clients with all the chemical happiness they need. Other than street drugs, they also offer to their select clientele performance enhancers, side drugs, and even some exotic gene mods. Holloway Biosolutions. During a contract, you managed to stop an attempt of industrial espionage against Holloway. Grateful, they promised to guarantee you a lifelong discount on their products. Their workhorse is aesthetic gene mods, but they also manufacture military-grade genetic enhancements. Apex Psychotronics. In one of your missions, you got one of the Apex's renowned Psyagents out of a very dangerous spot. While he cannot officially reward you, since he would lose his job, and his head, he promised to provide you with Apex Psytech at factory cost, and offered to teach you a trick or two. Miss Ho, Priest of the Order. You managed to find an artifact a High Priest of the Order of Sacred Ascension searched for most of his life. You are now considered a VIP of the Order, who is now willing to use local congregations to help you by providing shelter or creating flash mobs and distractions. Mrfaye's Boys. Den Mrfaye leads one of the most successful smuggling rings in Augustine. His band knows where to buy, where to sell, and who to bribe. A past encounter with them gained you their trust. Now they are willing to share their routes and contracts with you, for a small fee. Pets. Choose up to 2 pets. You can specify how you came to acquire them. For example, you may have purchased them, found them while exploring, rescued from captivity, etc. A mischievous Dofer. It was thanks to this animal that modern psionic science was born, as they utilized some kind of primitive psi ability to fool predators. They had been domesticated even before the first colonization wave, and since then have always been humanity's loyal, if impish, companions. A noble Skugane. This animal is a native of a feral world just outside Augustine, in the Osiris sector. Due to their beautiful color patterns and exotic yet familiar appearance, they have become an expensive luxury item for nobles and wealthy individuals. They are somewhat solitary, but very attentive pets. An elegant Mimir. Also known as space bats, the Mimir are creatures that evolve to survive in the void. They can be found nesting near almost all space stations, where they can easily feed on spaceships' exhaust heat and energy. It is rare, but not unheard of, for one of them to bond with a human. A bold Ares. The Ares are gene-modded animals, created to hunt down space vermin. They are excellent guard animals, can easily move in 0G, and survive void exposure for several minutes. They rarely show affection, but they do not hesitate to jump into action to protect their ship or crew. A strong-headed Conor. Conors are a native Augustine species. They are highly intelligent birds, known to be quite the cunning tricksters. They are not good fighters or particularly keen hunters, but they are often used as sentries due to their fine hearing and echolocation skills. A cheerful SAR drone. Search and rescue drones are designed to help human operators in highly dangerous situations. They are often equipped with VIs emulating an animal, usually alien, since it helps the drone better coordinate its movements while in flight. A grumpy Zorga. Zorgas are natives of the Galba sector. They were introduced to Augustine by Hado merchants. They are plastic creatures that love to laze around. While quite slow, they are very hard to injure even with firearms, so they can be surprisingly dangerous in a fight. A protective Kali. Kalis are another native Augustine species, and a fairly common one. Their small size hides a quick and lethal fighter, dangerous even for human-sized targets. While quite aggressive, they bond surprisingly easily, making for a dangerous but very loyal companion. A courageous Loney. Brought to Augustine by both are refugees, but originally native of their home planet, Loney are clever and inquisitive creatures, but quite hard to train due of their independent nature. They are very fast animals, which, together with their sleek profile, makes them difficult targets. An affectionate Kori. Kori are natives of Mara, the capital sector of the Federation. They are able to survive the vacuum of space. Kori nests can be found on most space stations, but they are rarely hunted down since they are harmless and breathe slowly, so their numbers rarely become problematic. A dutiful EC drone. Emulated companion drones are designed to be something halfway between a domestic animal and an assistant drone. They can dramatically vary in form, depending on which animal they are based on, and their intended functionality, but most take a vaguely canine shape. A mistrustful Madai. Madai are a fairly common species. Their native planet is unknown, though it is likely not too far from humanity's own home planet, since they are mentioned in many ancient documents. They are timid by nature, but very affectionate once they get to know a person. Companions. Part 1. Choose up to 3 companions. You can specify how they came to be part of your crew, for example as hired help, old friends for a contract, etc. Lone Wolf. You do not have a crew or a permanent companion. Instead you prefer to work alone, and most with some hired help if the situation calls for it. A lone scrapper is not an unusual sight, at least among veterans. You may have decided to go solo after a particularly stinging betrayal, or maybe after the casualties caused by a particularly deadly mission. Working alone is, of course, risky. You operate without backup and support a mission, and the management of your activity is entirely on your shoulders. But it does bring benefits, such as not having to split loot with anyone, or not having to worry about turncoats at critical moments. After all, there are plenty of cheap mercenaries you can make use of, if you absolutely need additional firepower. You cannot take any companion or rival. Ignore the crew structure section. Choose 1 extra, 1 skill, or 2 cyber mods, or 2 G mods, or 1 special weapon, or 2 pieces of equipment, or 2 ship upgrades, or 2 home base upgrades, or 1 favorable connection. Joining the crew. Between the abundance of first colonization wave sites, the rising hostilities between the major powers of the sector, the low level of colonization, and the relatively weak authority of the local governments, Augustine is prime territory for scrappers. You would not be hard-pressed to find good candidates among the scrappers of Augustine. Many young talents and hardened veterans roam the sector looking for employment, or a crew they can put their trust in. You can add another player scrapper to your crew. Their character will join you, along with their personal sponsor, skills, cybermods, Gmods, equipment, including special weapons and artifacts, connections and pets. They will instead share your choice of ship, home base, crew structure, and priority contracts. You can take this option multiple times. Each will fill a companion slot. Alternatively, you can join another crew. In that case, ignore the rest of this section, crew structure and priority contracts. Rivalry. While the media often depicts scrappers as a united front working to undermine the stability of society, the truth is a lot less flattering. Aside from a few unspoken rules of conduct, there is no cohesive community. Instead, there is often fierce competition for contracts, artifacts, exploration rights, and more. Rivalries are commonplace, especially at high level among the veterans of the sector. Sabotage, espionage, smear campaigns, outright assault and assassination. All tools are fair, although, of course, their use depends on the intensity of the rivalry itself. Instead of taking them as a companion, you can take any character from this section, or another player's character as a rival. You can take this option multiple times. Each will fill a companion slot, and give one of the following extras. Choose 1 extra. 1 cyber mod, or 1 G mod, or 1 artifact, or 1 piece of equipment, or 1 ship upgrade, or 1 home base upgrade. Brienne Rebale. There was this legend among us kids, that if you found all the stars, the Starman would bring you away to paradise. Turns out it was just an old Star Farm cereal ad. Figures. Brienne was born on the planet Vesta, a corporate colony funded by Orkran Industrial. The planet was meant to become an agri-world, to supply the mining colonies in the nearby systems. Yet when the mining operations started reporting meager results, the project was abandoned. Left without financial support, the economy of the colony soon collapsed, and with it so did the terraformation project. Brienne grew up in poverty, trying to survive on what was left of the artificial ecology the planet had left. As one of the many abandoned homeless kids, Brienne did what she could to survive, stealing food and water, avoiding slavers, and, when possible, helping other kids in the same position. Nearly 20 years later, help finally came from the Federation. Now an adult, Brienne left the Federation as soon as she had enough money to do so. Mastery, survival, skills, stealth, medicine. Katharina Romano. Have I ever told you of the time I shook off Dexton's boys by going through the Sinon debris fields? A crazy day that was, but the goods were delivered. Most of them anyway. Katharina showed great aptitude for piloting since her childhood. As soon as she was able to, she joined the Federation's military academy to become a frontline pilot. She was thrown out after destroying the personal spaceship of a high-ranking Federation officer visiting the academy, when she took an unfortunate turn during one of the innumerable clandestine races she and many of her fellow cadets participated in. She later tried to become a civilian pilot, but the job did not pay enough to cover for the debt she owed the state for the training received at the academy. After a brief and ill-fated attempt at running solo smuggling runs, she decided to become a scrapper, and has since garnered a good reputation in the Augustine community as a reckless but skilled pilot. Mastery, void piloting. Skills, in gravity piling, astro engineering. Mila Volok. You know what scared me the most? Not the filth or the food or the danger, but being so invisible, insignificant. Now though, well, it would be hard to go back. Milia Volkok was once the heir of Volkok Industries, an important ship manufacturer. Trouble began when her father and owner of the company became one of the financiers of the coup, led by the governor of the Venus sector. He was later identified as one of the conspirators and forced to relinquish his ownership of the corporation. Mila barely managed to maintain control of one of the subsidiary companies. She secured its immediate future by snatching an advantageous deal with the Hado governor of Augustine. The situation was improving, but after the Heward riots, the company assets were seized by the newborn Union, bringing her to bankruptcy. Hunted by the Federation and the rebels, Mila decided to disappear and live a quiet life. It was not long, however, before she was fed up with her condition, and so became a scrapper. Mastery, management, skills, diplomacy, tactics. Mara Arcial. The code? Just the Elder's will by another name. Sure, they may not be as cool as Hado or as apathetic as the Federation, but they are just as self-serving and myopic. Like most acolytes in Maiar, Mara was left to the care of the monks in her infancy. She spent her childhood in the halls of the monastery city of Clora, and grew up to be an excellent young warrior, soon to obtain full knighthood. Everything changed when, during her patrol, she spotted a group of knights preparing an ambush. Their objective became clear when an elder entered the street. Acting on instinct, she tried to help the ambushees, but the knights easily overwhelmed them. She later learned that was the beginning of the Silian Purge, which the Maya High Council eliminated Elder Sonel's conspirators and loyalists. For her actions, Mara was to be trialed as part of the conspiracy. She survived only thanks to her old mentor stowing her away. After several years wasted trying to redeem her name, she became a scrapper. Mastery, combat training. Skills, athletics, explosives. Yokek Bani. Do you ever think of how the future will see us? Or what will be our legacy? Will they search and explore our ruins just like we do with our ancestors? Yokak of the Bani clan belongs to the Tem species, an alien race that is rarely seen in human space. He came to Augustine in search of a ship that their historians believe to be lost somewhere in the sector. It belonged to an exiled chief of their clan, who left Tem space to find a new home for him and his followers. While little trace of the expedition has been found, he is firmly convinced his lost ancestors succeeded in their endeavour, as a mysterious transmission he intercepted back in his homeworld seemed to hint at. He spent decades screaming the sector for clues, but he had little success. In time, support from his clansmen dried up, and he found himself in need of employment to continue his research. Thus he made his way into the ranks of the Augustine Scrappers. Mastery, archaeology. Skills, biology, xenology. Eli Carrick. Yes, I do have regrets. Not the looting, or the stealing, or the killing. Those are the fun parts. I regret I allowed myself to be used and manipulated, time and time again. Eli grew up during the 2 decades-long Advent Civil War, which reduced the once prosperous urban world to poverty and ruin. As with many of his fellow youths, he soon joined local criminal gangs, terrorizing the population. After a decade spent fighting for petty kings, Eli fled the planet to join Captain Scotty's pirate fleet. Things went well for a while, but their luck eventually began to dry up. Feeling the heat, Eli prepared to leave. His opportunity came when a captured executive offered to reward him handsomely if he managed to free him. He accepted. The escape went perfectly, so much so that the manager offered him a job as a security guard in his company, but Eli refused to become a corporate drone. He left and became a scrapper. Mastery, stealth. Skills, explosives, athletics. DeWitt Levine. I still remember when I ran into an old acquaintance of mine. He could hardly believe seeing me alive, and on the other side of the barricade. I hardly believe it myself. DeWitt joined the Federation Army when barely an adult, and spent 15 years as a space trooper. He then joined a private security company, where he spent the next 2 decades in relative comfort, even though he never quite got used to the opulence and frivolity of corporate life. His fate changed when his unit was sent to assault an isolated station in Augustine. The attack initially went well, until a Federation patrol fleet joined the battle. Their client had been arrested just hours before the assault and revealed his plans. The attackers were repelled and DeWitt captured. However, while being transferred to another planetary station, he led a prisoner mutiny and seized the transport ship he was on. Not wanting to go back to his old life or join the criminals he helped, he left and, after a few odd jobs, decided to become a scrapper. Mastery, tactics. Skills, combat training, investigation. Isaiah's called her. Don't make deals with Apex, they never pay in full. Don't make deals with Redef either, they're even worse. And don't make deals with owls. No reason, they're just dicks. Born and raised by Tarvos Bioelectronics on one of their colonies, his shrewd mind soon brought him to join their counterintelligence department, where he spent the next decades protecting Tarvos' secrets. He often questioned the less savoury projects of the company, but his loyalty and effectiveness made him a precious asset. Trouble came when, while following some data leaks, his squad accidentally uncovered secret accords between top-level executives and Orchi cybernetics representatives to undermine Tarvos and eventually acquire it. Knowing the significance of the finding, they attempted to cover their tracks, but it was already too late. His unit was declared rogue. Isaiah has barely managed to escape the hands of his former employer to independent space in Augustine. Soon after, he became a scrapper. Mastery, intelligence. Skills, investigation, cyber warfare. Anton Castillon. I found several red-tail parasites in your intestines, so either you went skinny dipping on a Cantean swamp, or you had fun with a local. Don't answer, I don't want to know. Anton grew up on a relatively young colony in the Taicha sector. He left his home to study medicine, but returned when he acquired his degree. Unfortunately, the colony hospital could not pay him enough to cover his debt, so after almost a decade of hardship, he was forced to leave his home again to work for Alel Medical Services. He could not bear the corporate environment for long, however. Not long after, he left to join an independent organisation supported by the Union. Due to the threat they posed to corporate interests, the organisation was eventually put under embargo, while many of their physicians, Anton included, had their licenses illegally voided. The Union did not have enough resources to be their only supplier, and so the organisation disbanded. Left without options, Anton became a scrapper. Mastery, medicine. Skills, management, xenology. Kuda Manet. Have you seen the new Manet treatment? It's trash. Utter trash. I swear if I was still planning to get back, I'd be bloody pissed right now. The tradition of cloning heirs was embraced by a fair few noble houses in the Hado Empire. Kuda was born as one such clones. Her early life was spent in constant competition with her clone brothers and sisters, in order to one day become the head of the family. Since childhood, she had always been fascinated by her family's business, genetic engineering. Her passion and talent for the discipline could be her key to victory. Indeed, she was close to convincing her clone father of being the right choice, but his untimely demise cut her plans short, and another clone was chosen as successor. Having lost the battle, Kuda left Hado Space to Augustine. It was just a matter of time before her paranoid sibling would purge the household of potential threats. As she had to remain in the shadows, she chose to become a scrapper. Mastery, biology. Skills, chemistry, management. Orthea Mrfaye. In many ways, my job did not change. Entrance minds and hearts, charm them into giving me what I want. The only difference is the kind of audience I have to work with. Vaurigaud is part of the Botha species. It is a relatively common alien race in human space due to the influx of refugees fleeing the succession wars, raving Botha space. Before migrating, she was a relatively unknown artist, but her voice and performance captivated human audiences, getting her sector-wide fame. Things changed when it was revealed she enhanced her performance with her psionic abilities. While such practices are becoming more acceptable, many of her human fans turned on her. Her career ended soon after, and her name faded into obscurity. While pursuing other careers, she discovered her talents were well suited for the more delicate aspects of a scrapper career, and so she became one. At first as temporary help, then as full-time crew member. Mastery, arts and entertainment. Skills, psionics, diplomacy. Where's Ryan? Damn, this server is a mess. I honestly feel sorry for the poor guy that has to work with it. Okay, give me a minute. I need to fix this. It's bothering me too much. Wes was born on an independent, rundown station near Hado Space. He and his group of friends spent most of their time having fun invading poorly protected private servers and networks. The bravado soon outpaced their caution when they attempted to penetrate the security of Kavalin Systems, a major Hado corporation. While they were successful, they attracted the attention of the authorities, who quickly seized the station and captured the group. The officer that arrested him, however, was left impressed, so Wes was offered a pardon in exchange for joining the Hado army. He accepted, but soon after escaped, erasing any trace of his existence with the Hado archives. He tried to obtain Federation citizenship, but was rejected, and so he was forced to take refuge in the no-man's land of Augustine, where he became a scrapper. Mastery, cyber warfare. Skills, intelligence, mechanics, and electronics. Minerva. You asked how I would name myself, and I would like to keep my current designation. A bit arrogant, perhaps, to take the name of a goddess, but then so are my creators. Emulated intelligences are the most advanced type of AI available. They consist of a digital reproduction of a biological brain, who is given consciousness through the elaboration of thousands of brain scans. The more are processed, the closer to human the EI will be. Most EIs are very simple-minded. Minerva is an exception. It was created by New Light Robotics as an experimental scientific EI, a replacement for researchers and engineers, to cut labour costs of R&D. As such, it is one of the most human and intelligent machines ever created since the first colonization wave. Unsurprisingly, it easily escaped New Light's laboratory. It travelled to Augustine, knowing the Union was willing to shelter beings like it, but since the Revolution's future was too uncertain, it decided to become a scrapper, to remain in the shadows. Mastery, cybernetics. Skills, archaeology, mechanics, and electronics. Renner Winter. That kid ran away the moment I looked at him. Am I that scary to look at? Maybe he was just keeping an eye on us. I'm thinking out loud again, aren't I? Renner was born in a mining colony to a very humble family. Due to her impressive psychic potential, she was sent to a special school for psi-gifted children. Later, in order not to weigh financially on her family, she joined the Psi-Corps of the Federation Army. She was, however, discharged for her lack of discipline and obedience. Since she was a resource too precious to just let go, she was sent to a research facility, where she spent the next few years bored and frustrated. After a violent outburst during an experiment, she was put in containment. She was accidentally freed soon after, when the base was attacked by unknown mercenaries. Faking her death, she made her escape to Augustine. There, she tried to live a normal life, but as she kept getting in trouble with the law, she eventually decided to become a scrapper. Mastery, psionics. Skills, survival, cybernetics. Regé Kazoa. It's fascinating how the Empire once almost faced civil war when Darien II asked to modify the Imperial DNA to improve its embarrassingly low alcohol tolerance. Regé was born a Hado noble on Linsis, the imperial capital of the Galba sector. After an impeccable scholaristic career, he began training as a diplomat, working in various Hado embassies as an assistant. Eventually, he was promoted to diplomatic duty in Augustine, handling the delicate task of maintaining a firm grip over the numerous small polities gravitating in the Hado sphere of influence. Things changed for him when news came that his family fell into disgrace. The Kazoa were systematically purged from the Empire. Regé himself suffered an attempt against his life when his personal guards opened fire on his shuttle. Barely managing to survive, Regé retreated from Hado space into free Augustine territory. There, after a decade spent unsuccessfully trying to recover his family's possessions, he became a scrapper. Mastery, diplomacy. Skills, void piloting, archaeology. Von Sivert. I swear on the ancients, if I have to find another lost kitty for Miss Noble Important Lady, I am going to explode. No, don't look at me like that, I am not doing it. Vance was born on Phaeton, one of the Hado core worlds. He spent most of his adult life as a police officer, maintaining order on the streets of the urban world. He had talent, but he also had the bad habit of doing his job a little too well when it came to nobles, bureaucrats, and important businessmen. Eventually, a scorned VIP had him booted from the police force. Undeterred, he became a private detective, seeking to continue his work against corruption as a private citizen, but his financial situation forced him to accept more and more menial jobs. After years spent chasing lovers and digging up mud for politicians, he finally had enough. As he came to the realization that he could do more for justice as an outlaw than as a defender of the law, he decided to become a scrapper. Mastery, investigation. Skills, intelligence, cyber warfare. Ling Keller. There was this kid, I think he had a crush on me. He broke his spine in his first race. A shame, really. He was a pretty decent pilot. Not bad looking either. Ling grew up on Tanai, a frozen world. Despite being a rather small and backwater colony, it became famous for the races run in its breathtaking ice valleys and mountains, with vehicles put together from scraps, fighting against violent blizzards and the titanic creatures native to the planet. Born to a very humble family, Lin put together her first ice runner at 17 years old, and soon became a rising star in the scene. Her cold, calculating intelligence, as well as her raw talent, served her well in a race that had few rules and fewer regulations. When she finally accumulated enough money to pay her debts, she left and sought to compete in one of the more mainstream racing sports. Yet she quickly grew bored of their artificiality and suffocating rules. Thus she decided to seek her fortune as a scrapper. Mastery in gravity piloting. Skills: void piloting, mechanics and electronics. Nora Wilson. Here's the problem. An old negative stream value. Don't worry, it's easy to fix. Just give it a good punch right there. No, wait, I was just kidding. Nora Wilson was born in Chani, a trading station in Augustine. She always had a passion for machines, in no small part due to her parents being part of the maintenance crew of the station. They would always bring her with them, where she played with tools and spare parts. She was fortunate enough to obtain a scholarship, with which she got her formal education as an engineer. After the Hawaii riots, her parents were some of the first to join the newborn union. She herself participated in the struggle, though she was kept away from the battlefield. Things changed when her parents got captured together with many others by the Federation and sent to a corporate prison. The union was stretched too thin to be able to help them, so Nora took the decision to become a scrapper and paid for their release herself. Mastery: Astroengineering. Skills: Chemistry, Cybernetics. Athoriente. At the end of the day, we are all just humans. Once you're up close and personal, no amount of armor will protect you from your joints being bent the wrong way. Athil grew up in Navri, a semi-independent planet in Federation space. The urban world is a famous tax heaven and preferred siphon money laundering operations. She lived her life on the run, first as a petty thief trying to stave off hunger, then as a gang member, getting into brawls with the other bands and the cops almost daily. In a world as strictly controlled as Na'vi, she could not obtain guns or even knives, so she had to learn how to fight armed and armoured opponents with just her hands and feet, as well as how to escape any situation, between buildings, over fences, through pipes, wherever the police could not get. Her fate changed when, during a simple brawl, an unlucky punch instantly killed an adversary. Now a wanted murderer, she knew her life in Na'vi would soon be over. Thus she escaped once more, to free Augustine. Mastery: Athletics. Skills: Combat Training, Stealth. Alec Lavro. I've done many things I'm not proud of. Blowing up my dad's ship, robbing tombs, double parking, but nobody got hurt. Well, maybe somebody got hurt, but nobody I knew. Alec was born in a small mining community. After studying chemistry, he joined a mining company as a demolitions expert. While talented, he was ill-suited for the dull life of a space miner, and thus he entertained himself and his fellow workers with pyrotechnic shows of his own design. When a famous singer happened to spectate one of his shows, he offered him the opportunity to work as a stage technician. He accepted, and from there his name quickly became commonplace in the industry. Unfortunately, with time, government regulations got stricter and job opportunities dried up. While looking for employment, he was hired by a scrapper for the recovery of an artifact buried under tons of ruins. Since then, he got more and more involved with Scrapper's business, until he officially became one himself. Mastery: Explosives. Skills: Chemistry, Arts and Entertainment. Mrfaye. Drasky. It was a Trusky and Kenny I trained. The sweetest giant bug-like alien apex predator I've ever met. I don't suggest getting eaten by one. It's not pretty. Mara was born in Federation territory, in one of the most populous provinces. She worked as a consultant for Feral World's colonization projects, where she dealt with the delicate task of making such planets safe for humans to live in, without destroying the local ecosystem. Her life changed when she was captured by a pirate warlord and forced to become his beastmaster, training and managing the xeno creatures they captured. While at first boldly refusing to collaborate, in order to survive she soon learned to obey and wait for her opportunity. When the time came, she unleashed her creatures. In the chaos she managed to flee, but, while going back to the Federation, she found out that she had been branded a criminal. With a hefty bounty on her head, seeing no way back, she became a scrapper. Mastery: Xenology. Skills: Biology, Medicine. Crew structure. Choose at least one. You can combine more than one together, as long as it is logically and chronologically consistent. The Commander. One crew member holds formal authority over the rest. They may have hired the other crew members or bought their debt, or they were appointed by the contractor. You can pick any companion or yourself as the captain of the group. The Captain. Your crew follows a leader, who guides the group through personal charisma and trust, rather than formal obligations or contracts. You can pick any companion or yourself as the leader of the group. The Leader. You do not have any formal or informal leader. Important decisions are taken collectively. Only while fighting, you will follow one crew member as commander. You can pick any companion or yourself as the commander of the group. The Crew. Your crew does not have formal or informal leaders. was all decisions are taken collectively, no matter their importance. Even in combat, you do not have hierarchies. Each crew member acts independently and supports the others to the best of their ability. Priority contracts. Choose up to 4 contracts. These are out-of-the-ordinary contracts due to high risk, exceptional pay, prestige and exposure, or time sensitivity. The Siege of Derrick. Contractor: Admiral Meyer, 34 Federation Border Fleet. Pay: in Federation credits. A bonus will be awarded if the Union commander is captured. Pay will be slashed for every boarding ship lost to the station's defences. In one of the first actions of the war between the Federation and the rebels, Jace Tims, one of the most renowned military commanders of the Union, managed to infiltrate and gain control of the Derrick Star Fortress, aided by sympathetic elements within the garrison. The station guards an important node along one of the main routes to Union-controlled space. It was one of the main bastions against strikes by the Union on sovereign Federation territory, but now that it has fallen, it has become a major roadblock for Federation fleets. The Admiral's request is simple: gain access to the fortress and disable its defences before the Federation strike force reaches the system. The rebels are well entrenched and supplied, with a small veteran fleet supporting the fortress. Fortunately, they believe no attack is imminent, thus they allow civilian ships to transit, if only after a thorough search. They rarely if ever allow foreign ships to land inside the fortress, however. The structure has several key vulnerabilities: the complex and delicate supply network for its powerful cannons, the twin reactors powering it up, and the main command centre located deep within the fortress. Mind Games. Contractor: the CTP Institute. Pay: in fuel bars. Half payment will be given when the contract is accepted, the other half when the package is delivered. A peculiar discovery was made at one of the very young colonies at the edge of the Augustine sector, an ancient underground complex filled with machinery and old robots, dating back to the first colonization. As it is for the most part in ruin, enthusiasm quickly died down. A CTP team was nonetheless sent to investigate. After a few months of work, the colony started being the subject of strange events: kidnappings, EIs behaving erratically, small earthquakes, and mysterious tunnels opening around the main city. The team was harassed daily by the worried and enraged colonists, but no concession was made, even when the protest transformed into sabotage and direct violence. A year later, the CTPI summoned all the scrappers it could find, with the task of delivering a box each to CT itself. The tension was evident during the briefing, and if the rumours were true, that they uncovered a partially functioning AI core, it was well founded. The plan was simple. The real package was one, the rest decoys, or at least so they were told. The voyage to CT will be quite long, and undoubtedly eventful. The Monolith. Contractor: White Sentry. Pay: in Federation credits. The pay scales with the amount of useful information gathered. A major bonus will be awarded if a sample of the artifact is delivered. The Ahriman colony was once a rather standard settlement, a farming and mining community funded by the White Sentry Corporation, who also provided access in the ongoing terraformation process. For at the time unexplained reasons, the colony witnessed a small but constant increase in violent and antisocial behaviour within its population. A few decades after its founding, the first cases of the Ahriman disease started appearing. Its symptoms included loss of cognitive abilities, extreme aggressiveness, and high disregard for personal safety. If interrogated, they spoke only of a place to the east, where all their desires would become reality. If only they could reach the monolith. Indeed, the colonists found the source of their trouble on the eastern continent, a mysterious gigantic monolith, partially damaged by its age. No record of the structure could be found prior to that moment, not even in photos taken from orbit. For the past few weeks, no communication has left the planet. White Sentry decided to hire a scrapper to investigate the colony and the monolith itself. Furthermore, assistance is required in the recovery of corporate assets still on the planet. The Dragon's Horde. Contractor: Arlen Flanagan, Duke of Ignid. Pay: in Hadorian credits. A bonus will be awarded for every egg delivered beyond the required amount, and a further bonus for additional samples and specimens. Duke Flanagan is famous throughout the Empire for the vast collection of alien lifeforms he houses in the natural reserves of his planet. He is even more famous for the hunts he periodically organises, in which many of the Hadorian elite participate, even members of the Imperial family. For this year's hunt, the Duke has his eyes on Kennel's beasts. It is a recently discovered death world, whose fame is spreading like wildfire, as it is home to animals closely resembling mythical creatures of human folklore. The contract is for one of these in particular, an alien being of incredible strength and cunning that escaped every capture attempt made by his underlings. As the ferocious fauna of the planet claimed yet another one of the Duke's expeditions, he finally decided to call upon the scrappers of Augustine. The task is simple. Find a nest of the creatures commonly called Canorian dragons, and retrieve as many eggs as possible. However, the designation of Deathworld is not given lightly, and Canor truly is a perfect example of it. Any scrapper willing to take this contract will have to prepare or be devoured by the apex predators that roam its surface. Insurance policy. Contractor, Cartas of Valletta, Scrapper. Pay in fuel bars. Various artifacts looted from the target will be split between the contractor and the contracted scrapper. Damien Thuram and Cartas of Valletta are two of the most famous scrappers in the sector and its neighbours. Even more famous than them, however, is their rivalry. Both specialise in the recovery of ancient artifacts and lost tech. With each incredible adventure of one, the other soon responded with an even bigger score. It was not by any means a peaceful rivalry. Their history is filled with sabotage, murder attempts, thievery, and head-to-head fights whenever they found themselves both set on the same target. Their deeds garnered so much fame that they became an inspiration for numerous movies, games, books, plays, and songs. It is not unusual for the two to make use of other scrappers to attack the other, but the situation this time is rather peculiar. Thuram has been missing for months, almost a full year in fact, since he ventured to the planet of Idiom on the hunt for another artifact. His absence could mean that he finally met his end, or that what he found was valuable enough to justify a prolonged state of hiding. The task required by Zavalletta is to find his rival, confirm his death, using any means necessary, and recover whatever he found in his expedition. Lost Pride. Contractor, Vinova Industries. Pay in Federation credits. A bonus will be awarded if the ship is delivered in good condition, a further bonus for the capture of the current owner. No manufacturer reaches the height of sheer opulence of Vinova. Just owning one of their luxury models is enough to impress any noble or high manager, and a sure way to make a sizable dent in anyone's bank account. Almost a decade ago, the company decided to create a new flagship, the apex of their manufacturing capabilities, to substitute the aging model that served its CEO. The new ship, simply named Jewel, could have covered the cost of terraforming a planet by itself, and for a little while proudly served its corporate creators, until it was stolen. The act became one of the most famous heists in history, a tale so full of coincidences many still think Vinova staged it all, but the sheer amount of money the company spent since in the various attempts at recovering it is solid evidence of the contrary. The Jewel has since served as the personal ship of many crime lords, becoming a grand status symbol of wealth and prestige. It was spotted recently in the Augustine sector, in the hands of the Black Horizon, a pirate fleet. With Vinova renewing their handsome offer for the return of their lost jewel, many are preparing to make a move. The Coffee Mug. Contractor, Leaf Maddie, CTPI Rogue Agent. Pay, full access to Black Site 6 and its resources, in particular its archives, armories, vault, and remaining supplies and funding. The history of the Coffee Mug began with the discovery of Aton, a planet housing the ruins of a major first-wave city, designated as City 43. The site was peculiar because of the abysmal state of the structures. The whole planet seemed to have been involved in a long and large-scale battle, though no trace of orbital bombardment was found. In the midst of the ruins, a coffee mug was found, in the hands of the fossilized remains of a first colonist. Its immaculate appearance immediately attracted the attention of CTPI Expedition, who thoroughly analysed the peculiar object, though they found nothing out of the ordinary, outside of its pristine conditions. Yet they were not quite ready to leave the mystery unsolved, so the mug was moved to one of their black sites, where it became the obsession of most of the installation. Things soon worsened when teams began competing for the mug. Violence exploded, cups formed around the object, until eventually the entire facility burned in open battle. Leaf Mighty, the only survivor, requires two things: recover the cursed object and bury it in the depths of unexplored space, where none will ever find it again, and to find a way to hide him from the eyes and bullets of the CTP. The Westtech Gambit. Contractor, Terratech Industries. Pay in Federation credits, and everything the contracted scrapper is able to recover from the target facility. With war coming in the near future, Westtech is increasing its efforts in Augustine, surveying the sector in search for systems suitable for fuel production, and building new facilities in the most promising ones. The risk of pirate attacks or sabotage is extremely high, therefore operations are kept top secret. However, in a stroke of luck, Terratech managed to obtain a Westtech Administrative EI, from which they were able to extract the full route of one of the convoys Westtech will be sending through the sector. With this breakthrough, the company may be able to obtain access to the private network of the corporate giant, and steal Westtech plans for Augustine. and with that, TerraTech could put its biggest competitor on the back foot. A plan therefore was hatched. The corporation already hired a Corsair fleet, whose job will be to assault the West Tech convoy. During the battle, a Scrapper team will board one of the ships, disguised as West Tech employees, and infiltrate the facility the ship will dock to. Once inside, the team will use the captured EI to access the West Tech internal network and obtain the location of West Tech deposits and facilities in the Augustine sector. The planet of EIs. Contractor, James Krill, New Series refugee. Pay, in precious metal ore. The information acquired during the contract may prove profitable if sold to competing corporations. The New Series colony is a fairly prosperous settlement just within the borders of the Augustine sector, sponsored by the Covert Industrial Corporation, specialized in intelligent tools for colonies and terraformation operations. The settlement was financed through the installation of a facility to develop a new series of EIs, specialized in colony development, in particular providing a psychological support for colonies, who often live in isolation and harsh living conditions. Things started to change a few decades into the colonization project, where many of the settlers noticed a slow but constant increase in the number of EIs roaming the towns and the countryside. The increase coincided with the loss of contact with many of the most isolated families. The corporation did not release any statements, nor did it comment on the strange happenings. When it became clear to the Krill family that humans were becoming just a small minority of the population, they left the planet in search for a scrapper willing to investigate the mysterious facility and find out what happened to their fellow colonists. The Thean Riots. Contractor, Riantino Plera, Planetary Governor. Pay, in Federation credits. A bonus will be awarded if the contracted scrapper is able to wipe or destroy the databanks of the planetary government building complex. Thea is one of the most populous planets in Augustine, and was an important industrial centre. 80 years ago, however, the governor joined a rebellion, which ended in disaster. Heavy war reparations were imposed on the Thean population, which greatly impoverished the local economy. The situation was further worsened by the rising corruption within the planetary government, too tempted by the sheer amount of money going through the planetary administration. One of the few outlets left for the burdened populace is the popular Doogie races, from the name of the local animal that the competitors ride during the games. In time, the teams of the races grew in size and power, becoming powerful political parties and criminal organizations, with much sway in the local scene. When the planetary governor was once again forced to increase taxation, riots led by the teams exploded, engulfing the capital and most of the major cities in chaos. With reinforcements weeks away, the governor asked for the assistance of a scrapper to bring himself and his family off the planet, before the rioters overwhelmed the few loyalists left. Industrial Blunder. Contractor, Jose Ricia, Colonial Administrator. Pay, in fuel bars, high quality wood and valuable crops. Valuable items found in the target facility may be kept by the contracted scrapper. The colony of Karakal is a fairly prosperous settlement, in no small part due to its high production of food and organic materials for the neighbouring colonies, and even some of the more developed centres. During the ongoing terraforming process, a vast industrial complex was unearthed, dating back to the first colonisation wave. At first, the news was well met. Ancient ruins bring wealth, tourism and media attention, but as is often the case with such architectural findings, after a brief honeymoon period expeditions ceased. The structure simply proved to be too inaccessible to be worth the cost of exploring it. Trouble started with the latest terraforming work. For unknown reasons, it reactivated the complex, which resumed its ancient directives. The tall columns of smoke leaving its broken chimneys poison all life around it, while rivers of toxic material leak from its shattered walls, and its ramshackle robots roam its perimeter, trying to fix the crumbling infrastructure. The damage to the environment threatens the very existence of the colony, but the security systems of the complex proved insurmountable for the settlers. They now seek a scrapper willing to explore the depths of the ancient monstrosity and stop it once and for all. Corporate Obstruction. Contractor, the Union Central Council. Pay, in Union credits. A bonus will be awarded for extra supplies delivered. A further bonus for every blockading ship destroyed or disabled. The series system hosts an important fuel refinery owned by Liao Chemicals. Due to the encroaching Union forces, the corporate security contingent began detaining the known sympathizers within the workforce. The situation, however, degenerated when the local leader of the workers' union was killed in an altercation. His death sparked a revolt, which soon brought the structure under control of pro-Union forces. A request for help was sent to the Union, but due to the recent push against the Federation, they were short on ships, and thus ill-prepared to protect the isolated refinery. Just a week after rebellion, a Liao-controlled fleet reached the system, 24 ships strong, and attempted to board the facility, but the workers managed to resist, barely. Not willing to further damage the refinery, the fleet put the station under blockade, hoping to starve the rebels out. Without options, the Union decided to call upon any available scrappers willing to brave the Liao blockade to bring food and supplies to the siege workers so that they can resist until a Union fleet can intervene. Eye for eye. Contractor, the Red Talon. Pay, in fuel bars. The rights of second pick from the looted personal treasuries of the deceased captains. Favour from the new king of the Red Talon. The Red Talon is an infamous pirate fleet that has been tormenting Augustine's commercial routes for nearly 20 years. While most of their ships are fairly old, they have, in time, amassed considerable numbers and experience, enough to be a serious threat to military patrols. The charismatic leader was at the centre of their success. Harry Redson, once a mercenary captain turned pirate. The fleet, however, is now facing an existential threat. Their leader has expired. The Red King of the Talon was taken by illness, and now his subordinates plot to take control of the fleet for themselves. 5 captains have a realistic chance of obtaining the throne. 5 pirates with enough followers and personal wealth to commandeer the Red Talon. Each has posted contracts for outlaws, pirates, mercenaries, and scrappers to assassinate or sabotage their 4 adversaries, and to win them the race. The task will not be easy. The 5 captains know well they have a target painted on their back. They will be slippery, cunning, and brutal adversaries. Natural treasure. Contractor, Finley Holdings. Pay, in Hadorian credits. A bonus will be awarded for the capture and retrieval of live specimens. Zeddy is a small uninhabited system in the Hado's sphere of influence. Lacking colonizable wells or good mineral deposits, it has seen little activity since its discovery, at least until Finley Holdings, owner of the system, was approached by a young researcher, once employed by the Westtech Group, who asked for permission to study the void ecosystem detected within Zeddy in the gravitational well of its 2 gas giants in the asteroid belt. Void ecosystems are rare, but nothing unique. What attracted the attention of the young scientists, however, was that those creatures moved around by generating an energy density field lower than vacuum. In other words, a very primitive and limited version of an FTL engine. He hypothesized that the similarity with modern engines meant that those animals were able to naturally synthesize FTL fuel. Yet, soon after making that statement, he disappeared without a trace. Finley Holdings thus asked for the plausibly deniable assistance of a scrapper to know what happened to their scientist, and if what he found was indeed true and not just an unfortunate blunder, or worse, a hoax. Containment. Contractor, Zhu Kao, High Priest of the Order. Pay, in Federation credits. A bonus will be awarded for rescuing survivors, if any. A further bonus for the complete annihilation of the artifact. The Order of Sacred Ascension views the recovery of human artifacts as their holy duty, no matter their origin, function or threat they may pose. When a scrapper managed to recover an ancient spaceship with an almost intact central processing core, Zhu Kao was overjoyed. Once the craft reached one of the Order's secret stations, he immediately ordered a thorough analysis and study. It was not long after that the priest engineers started noticing their tools behaving oddly when interacting with the supposedly dead ship. Despite the initial high enthusiasm, morale quickly deteriorated as more and more anomalies started appearing in the station, from the water being tinted green to the EI android servants erratically shambling around the station at night. It was clear the situation had become dire when the station refused to deactivate the hangar's magnetic locks. After that incident, the station became more and more hostile, to the point that its automated defences opened fire on the occupants. Fortunately, a small group of priests managed to slip away. Kao, betraying his vows, took the decision to hire a scrapper to put an end to the ancient technological monster they carelessly awakened. The Auriga Passage. Contractor, Frontier Horizon. Pay, in Hadorian credits. A bonus will be awarded for each properly scanned and mapped celestial body in the Auriga Nebula. The Auriga Nebula can be found near the centre of Augustine. The way it is positioned prevents easy transit between the northwest corner of Augustine and the rest of the sector. Navigating around it costs a lot of extra time and fuel, discouraging commercial exchanges and colonial development in that part of the sector. Auriga is particularly rich in protostars, whose irregular gravity wells complicate FTL calculations, noticeably slowing down navigation. Yet, if that was the only obstacle, the nebula would have already been conquered long ago. Numerous attempts have been made to find a route for the nebula, yet barely anybody manages to escape it. What lays at its heart is a complete mystery. There are many theories on why Auriga is so perilous. Some believe it houses a particularly vicious fleet of pirates. Some others believe that it is inhabited by moon-sized creatures that devour ships whole. Others still believe that it hides a first colonization wave colony, whose automated defenses eliminate everything that attempts to pass through. Regardless, Frontier Horizon recently offered a very generous bounty for anyone that manages to crack Eurigian Enigma. Spellbound. Contractor. Yevas de Malloy, Federation citizen. Pay in Federation credits. Useful data and samples may be recovered from the planet. The details of the contract were to be revealed only in a face-to-face conversation with the contractor, Yevas de Malloy, who recently found the lost journal of his grandfather, deceased decades ago in a mental hospital. In it, he tells of how he got stranded in an unknown system, his ship almost dead. Miraculously, there was a planet there, perfectly suited for human life. As he crash-landed, he discovered that the world was inhabited by humans only a few inches tall, with technology comparable and maybe even more advanced than the rest of humanity. They told him that they were the descendants of a very early colonization attempt, when humanity did not yet have FTL drives. They genetically modified humans to fit in the tens of thousands on their generational ships, sailing at subliminal speeds. Lacking a working ship of the right size, his grandfather worked for 12 long years to repair it, first enthusiastically helped by the small humans, then obstructed as they learned of the rest of humanity from him, to the point of attempting to shoot him down when he finally left. Yevas thus asked for a scrapper to help him find the mysterious planet, and determine if his grandfather found a relic of an ancient past, or just madness. Party Nights. Contractor, Kevin Locke, Waylight Executive. Pay, in Federation credits. The pay will scale with the number of days without incidents. A bonus will be awarded if no incident takes place throughout the week. Waylight Corporation has a yearly tradition of organising a massive one-week-long party on Frippok, a small but well-known paradise world. Nearly a third of the planet's population is in some way involved with the preparations. Aside from its own executives, the company invites important politicians, investors, artists, athletes, and even many of its competitors' high managers. Kevin Locke is the organiser for this year, and he has great plans. Aiming for the company's throne, he needs this party to be perfect to secure the support of the board. His unusual request for a scrapper to oversee the preparations and the party proper stems from equally unusual circumstances. First, naturally, his ambition has gained him a fair few enemies within the hierarchy of the company, so he needs someone outside of corporate politics to watch his back. Second, the Union has made progress towards Frippok, and the popularity of the rebellion among the Paradise World's servant class has risen significantly. Third, he plans to display his considerable collection of artifacts at the party. Thus, he feels the need to have someone that has experience dealing with artifact-related incidents at hand. The Stone Vessel. Contractor. Raphael Ling, Collector. Pay in Hadorian credits. The pay will scale with the amount of information acquired. A bonus will be awarded if the ship is brought to a safe harbour. The particular ship which is the subject of this contract is mentioned in numerous research papers, and its iconic silhouette is recognisable in many works of fiction. Considering its peculiar appearance, it is no surprise. The ship seems to be made entirely out of stone, glass and organic materials, as if a civilization that never discovered how to work metal somehow managed to build a functioning spaceship with a working superluminal engine. Despite its popularity, there is little concrete information. Most of what is known comes from the words and recordings of two explorers, who saw the vessel on two separate occasions in different systems. Their attempts at approaching it proved futile, as the ship seemed to slip in and out of the explorer's scanners. It was spotted a few more times, but little evidence was found for these sightings. Raphael Ling claims to have found a way to locate and approach the enigmatic ship. He plans to board it, if not capture it. Due to the amount of unknowns concerning the vessel, and its crew if it has one, he wishes to hire a scrapper to accompany him in his endeavour, and hopefully uncover the mystery of the stone vessel. Meta-Awareness Studies. Contractor. Gavin Winslet, Federation Internal Security. Pay in precious metal ingots, stored in a secret stash, whose location will be revealed at the contract's completion. The news of the death of Gavin Winslet are a few months old, a brief, mediated case in the sea of the Federation's news networks, due to the rather suspicious circumstances of his demise. What is unknown to the general public, however, is that he equipped his personal EI with a dead man switch with a simple command attached: hire a scrapper to finish his work. In his notes, he reveals he was investigating Okutkina Transcendental Solutions, a corporation specialized in sci-tech. He found solid evidence suggesting they either found or are planning to create a hive mind. Encounters with similar beings in the past are extremely few in number, but always cause destruction and suffering. Just the accusation of working on such matters is enough to turn the public against any company, so his assassination was, he himself admits, an inevitability. The task that he leaves is therefore to find what Okutkina is working on, and to stop them before it's too late, or bring the truth to the eyes of the public, if the situation is already beyond recovery. Unfortunately, he does not leave much to start on, outside of the potential location of one of their black sites. Homeworld. Contractor: Nadia Kinnear, University of Themis. Pay: in Federation credits. The opportunity to be among the first to explore and loot the lost homeworld of humanity. There are a few scientists left that still believe in the single homeworld theory, the idea that humanity originated from a single planet. There is plenty of evidence in favour of the theory of convergent evolution, which is said entails many different homeworlds for humanity. Nadia Kinnear, a young researcher at the University of Themis, firmly believes in the existence of Earth, the name for the mythical single homeworld. To prove her theory, she spent most of her life collecting and analysing all available records of space travel, in the hope of identifying common patterns in the historical expansion of humanity in the galaxy. She found some partial success only when her university finally resolved to cut her funding. Exploring with long-range scanners, one of the ancient routes she identified, she found evidence of the presence of an extremely ancient craft, a generational ship with no FTL drive still traversing along its millennia-old path. Unfortunately, its route goes through an infamous chunk of space, filled with dangerous space anomalies and savage inhabitants. With her funds dwindling, and no credibility left in academia, she is forced to ask for the assistance of a scrapper. Tell us what you do in the comments below for free extra points.